All right, good evening, everyone. Now let's hear for your council member, Costa Constantinides. Very good. And your mayor, Bill Deblasio. Before we start, I'd like to welcome Gianaris to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. Yeah. Very good. All right, give him 1 second. Are you ready? All right. When you're ready, Gianna.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job, Gianna.
Thank you, Gianna. So I'd like to thank some of our co-sponsors this evening. Queens Community Board 1 with Chair Nomar Nieves Blas and District Manager Florence Caloris. The Hellenic American Neighborhood Action Committee, President John Gianaris. The Astoria Houses Residents Association, President Claudia Koger. The Muslim American Society of Queens, President Ahmed Jamal. The Steinway Astoria Partnership Central Astoria, President Marie Tornelli. The Greek American Homeowners Association, John Kitchios. Sorry. I was corrected. And of course, the principal of PS 70, Donna Condelis Geller. Thank you for hosting us this evening. And before we begin, I'd like to invite up our special guest, Borough President Melinda Katz, to give us a greeting.
Mr. Mayor, welcome. Welcome. Costa Constantinides, by the way, is probably one of the most talented council members I've ever seen in my 25 years of experience. And we do a lot of great projects together, but tonight really is about a town hall meeting with the mayor of the city of New York. And I have to tell you, this is Queens Week for City Hall. And so the mayor, all the deputy mayors, all the commissioners, all of their staffs moved into Queensborough Hall for 1 week. I said I could do anything for a week. It has been one of the greatest experiences, not only for me personally, but for the entire borough of Queens. This was a week where we had our mayor going from one end to the other of the borough of Queens. Not that he's a stranger here, but it was a focus directly on what we need in the borough. He wanted to see every aspect of it. His commissioners have been having meetings with every one of our groups throughout the entire borough of Queens. And with that comes an education, I think, that you only get when you travel and you talk to folks. I was there yesterday during community meetings where Mayor Deblasio literally stood at a microphone for hours and answered question after question as folks came up. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your dedication to this great borough of Queens. And I'm going to be brief because I know that the mayor wants to hear from you, but just so you understand, Queens has the lowest unemployment in the entire city of New York under this administration. We have full pre-K, full day pre-K, so that folks can not only have their children educated at 5 years old, that they can also go to work because it's full day pre-K. We have a ferry system that is 5 boroughs in the city of New York, and I believe Hallett's Point is starting August. And that's an amazing accomplishment throughout this entire borough of Queens. And a lot of it in this community is because of the great advocacy of Councilman Costa, Constantinides, and all the great projects that he does to bring money to his community. So there's a long list, but there are many folks here that would like to ask questions to our mayor and to our councilman. So I will turn the microphone back over and simply say, Mr. Mayor, it is a great privilege to have you in Queens.
Thank you. Everyone, once again, your Borough President, Melinda Katz.
Yeah, right. That's out.
And now, your council member, Costa, Constantinides.
Thank you, Marco. Good evening, everybody. First, I want to thank our great Borough President, Melinda Katz. Thank you, Melinda. Whether it's our schools, whether it's our parks, whether it's our libraries, whether it's our eco-dock that's coming, you've been there for this community time after time, so thank you for being a great public servant that you are. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Deblasio, for being here tonight, and all of the agency heads for being here at Astoria again. Now, little known story, the mayor, I don't know if I want to tell this, the mayor used to live in Astoria. And we share a deli together, the Othello Deli. I live around the corner from it. It's a great deli, and the mayor goes there as well. But, we've had a lot of successes together. Whether that's Astoria Park and the $30 million we've secured to build that park up for the next 30 years, whether that's on climate change and making sure that New York City stays the international leader. As Washington steps away from climate change, we've made sure that we lead the way. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. Whether that's keeping our neighborhoods safe. We have the men and women at the 114th Precinct, Deputy Inspector Fortune. We've had safer numbers, and the NCO program's been a huge hit. So thank you for that. But there are some things that haven't gone as well. And there have been some challenges and conversations that we have in our community and that we need addressed tonight. That's why I'm so grateful for you being here. Because we're New Yorkers, we're Astorians, right? One of the more diverse communities, I'd say the most diverse. 160 languages spoken in the borough of Queens. I think all of them are right here in Astoria. But we live with one another, we love one another, and we just want to see how we can better work together. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, this is our opportunity to have this conversation with one another, to work together to solve problems, to get questions answered, to work with the agencies to better our community. So I'm going to ask a few things of you tonight. Number one, look how full this room is. This is an amazing turnout. But that means everyone here has a question tonight. So what I'm going to ask of you is if you can keep your question to one question. And if you can keep that one question to a somewhat short length. Because again, we are all here together. And I want to be able to have the mayor answer as many questions as possible for as long as he can stay. But that means being with one another and making sure that we can work together to have that conversation. So I'm going to help moderate tonight. If you have a question, we're in a school, so Ms. Geller, thank you for hosting. Raise your hand. I'm going to call on those that raise their hand, and then we will send someone with a microphone over to ask your question. And then once you're done with your question, I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of questions to be asked, but no follow-ups. Okay, we got to keep it to one question only. Let's keep it moving. Let's make sure that we can maximize this for all of our neighbors who are here tonight to be heard and to have their concerns raised with the mayor. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here and looking forward to getting this done together. Because whether it's library renovations or Steinway Street or the ferry that's coming or so many things going on, we'd love to hear more from you. And just very quickly, I want to thank Gianna Bizzarro, who did a great job on the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's give her a big round of applause as well. A student here at PS 70. It's an amazing school. This building was built where trailers used to be. So with that, I think we're ready to get started, Mr. Mayor? All right, so raise your hands. Oh, you got your thing. Oh, I thought, my apologies.
I want to say something. Wow, Costa, you're a tough moderator. I just want to say something for a couple minutes before we open up the questions. I'm so thankful for everyone being here tonight. By the way, this is not only a full room, it's a full room on a beautiful summer night in July. And that is a tribute to everyone here, how much you care about your community and how much you want to see it get better and you want to be a part of the solution. So I want to thank everyone. It's really very, very wonderful to see people of the Astoria community and all of this great council district coming out to help make it better. Now, it's true, I have my roots here, so I lived diagonally across from Ricardo's Banquet Hall. Who knows Ricardo's Banquet Hall? Okay, good start. It's true, so that was my last bachelor pad. This is the truth, okay? I'm not going to tell you everything about the bachelor pad, but it was my last bachelor pad. I was living there when I met my now wife, Charlene. And I used to go to Othello Deli because they had, in my opinion, the best spinach pies around. And I still go there whenever I'm around to get the spinach pie. You see? I have proof. So I love this neighborhood because I had a wonderful time living here for just 2 years, but they were wonderful years. I got to know the community. I got to know so many people in it. And I have a real sense of why people love and value this community so deeply. So I'm glad to be here to have a real conversation with you about the issues the community faces. I want to say at the outset, first of all, I want to thank Melinda Katz publicly for being such a wonderful host this week during Queen's Week. I want to thank you on behalf of all my team. You've been wonderful. Your team's been wonderful. I will tell you that one thing that's great about Melinda Katz is consistency. So when it's not Queen's Week, she calls me, she emails me, she texts me all the time about, are we doing enough for Queens? We need to do more for Queens. What about Queens? During Queen's Week, she says, are you doing enough for Queens? You have to do more for Queens. What about Queens? So she's very, very consistent, but she always has a strong and substantive agenda that she's pushing. And if you know Melinda Katz, she knows her subject matter. She's smart about the issues, and so when she calls, I always pay attention. Let's thank the borough president for all she does. I want to talk about your council member, but before I do, I want to make sure I want to add one other good ground rule to this meeting. It's a positive ground rule, which is the meeting will go on for a while. It typically go on until about 10 p.m. And what we have here is not only me to offer my views and my insights, but we have the leaders of so many different city agencies here as well. And this is a big deal because a lot of the people that working on the issues you care about all the time, they're sitting right here. And sometimes they'll help me answer the questions, but it's also important because at the end of the meeting, if there's anything you want to talk about, anything you didn't get to ask or anything you want to follow up on, they're right here, all available to you. They expect your questions afterwards. Come right up and talk to them. Now, these are very hardworking people. I've known a lot of public servants. These are some of the hardest working public servants I've ever known. So just in case you're worried about keeping them up late, I want you to know they will stay here all night if you want them to. Especially because it's Queen's Week. We want to get the most out of Queen's Week. So come up, talk to them afterwards, and they will make sure to follow up on your issues. Council member, I got to tell you, this is a good man. I want to affirm what the borough president said. So I was a city council member, and when you're a city council member, a lot of what you get done is only if you win people's respect. And Councilmember Constantinides really has won the respect of everyone at City Hall, all the different agencies. He's a smart guy. He's a serious guy. He's fun to hang out with. But when it comes to the work, he's a very serious, mature guy who gets the job done. He has been a leader in this city on protecting our environment. And I have to tell you, because we all know, you mentioned it, what's going on in Washington. We all know the danger of climate change, all the things that we're concerned about in the city, about what will the future bring for our children and grandchildren. One of the most important leaders in this city protecting our environment is your councilman. Let's thank him for all he does. Now, I just want to tell you a couple of quick things because I think it really is a moment to reflect. You know, I give the borough president and the council member a lot of credit. When we were talking a little while back about the fact that borough president said it, this borough of Queens is so strong in so many ways. Has the lowest unemployment rate of any borough in New York City. And that's a good thing. But listen to this number. It's 3.7% unemployment. That's an amazingly low rate. That means the economy is booming here in Queens. And what we've all devoted ourselves from, I was a council member from Brooklyn when I started out, you're a council member, you were a council member, and now borough president. We all said to ourselves over the years, we said, you know what, we respect Manhattan, but we want to see a city for all 5 boroughs. We want to see an economy that works in all 5 boroughs. We want to see jobs created in all 5 boroughs. For the first time in our history, this is really becoming true in a very, very deep way. Job growth is faster in Queens even than it is in Manhattan now. So congratulations, Borough President. Congratulations, Council Member. That's a good news story. And, you know, you should be proud because also Queens is getting safer and safer. Crime is going down in Queens, and it's going down even faster than in other parts of the city. It's going down in almost every part of the city, but Queens is helping to lead the way. But here's something that makes me particularly proud, which is you talk about this community and the 114th precinct. This is, give them a round of applause, and give all of our NYPD leadership a round of applause. Listen to this number. This blows my mind. So you know how much we believe in neighborhood policing. This was the vision created by Commissioner O'Neill. Get our officers out into communities and they stay in the same part of a neighborhood for the long term. They build relationships, get to know people, learn what's really going on, get to hear from people, get to know people one-on-one. And it changes the nature of policing and it makes it better, it makes it stronger. It's both a better way to bring police and community closer, but also the results are amazing in terms of crime fighting. So check this out. The 114th precinct started with the core of the neighborhood policing initiative in October of 2016. That's when the neighborhood coordinating officers came in October of 2016. Since that time, since the neighborhood coordinating officers came in, crime is down in the 114th precinct by 21%. Isn't that amazing? So this shows you that a new approach can really yield something very big. And the borough president mentioned something else I'm very, very proud of, which is what's happened with pre-K. And she talked about what it's meant for Queens. 5 times more kids in full-day pre-K in Queens today than just 4 years ago. Queens has been the place where pre-K grew the most. In your district, council member, when I came into office, there were 190 kids in full-day pre-K. There's now over 1,000 kids in one district. These are the kinds of things that really make a difference in people's lives. And I just want to mention a couple other things because I know this community and I know a lot of people in this community are homeowners. I know a lot of people in this community every day are working hard to make ends meet, and it's not easy to make ends meet in New York City. It's gotten more and more expensive, particularly for homeowners who have less means. It's a challenge. Well, one of the things we're trying to do is find every way we can to reduce the expenses for homeowners. And for 53,000 homeowners, we just announced that they will get a credit on their water bill, and 23,000 of them are in Queens. They're going to get a $115 credit on their water bill. And this is the kind of thing, it's a little thing, but it helps. Homeowners who are a little bit lower income, don't have as much money, we're looking for every way to put some money back in your pocket. We're also trying to put money back in the pocket of homeowners in terms of the water bills overall. I have a plan to give a $183 rebate to all homeowners in New York City. That is being opposed in court by the landlord lobby, but we're fighting every day to get that done so we can put more money back in the pocket of homeowners. This is something we're going to keep doing. And another thing that people talk about all the time is getting around this city and getting around this borough. And everyone understands how tough that is, especially as more and more people are here. We know that is a challenge we're going to address in a lot of different ways. One thing we have to do is make our streets better to begin with. So I want you to hear this. This is just for Queens. Since I came into office, we have filled 419,000 potholes in Queens. That's a lot of potholes, Borough President. And we have repaved 1,200 miles of streets. Repaved 1,200 miles of streets. That is so much that has to be done, but I really want to say our colleagues, particularly in the Department of Transportation, have done an amazing job in really improving the quality of life. If you have a repaved street, that does something very good for your quality of life, and we're going to keep doing that. Now, we know there's a lot of concern about safety, and everyone knows I've cared deeply about Vision Zero. This was an initiative we created in this administration to make people safer. And it's working. Every year, the number of people we lose to traffic crashes is going down, and the number of injuries going down, and we're going to keep driving them down. Well, I know there's been a lot of concerns about Steinway Street and making it a better environment for pedestrians. So I just want to announce that the Department of Transportation will be creating a new design to make the Steinway Street corridor more pedestrian-friendly and safe. And that plan will be brought to the community board next year, so there's going to be a full public discussion. But it's another thing we think is going to advance the quality of life in the community. Now, another thing I want to mention, which you heard about before, part of how we help people get around is give people more options. So, citywide ferry service. For $2.75, you can go, you can ride the open seas, okay? As someone, one day we were at a press conference, and a journalist said, well, why do you think it's so popular? And one of the guys who is running the ferry system looks at the journalist and said, you get on for $2.75, you get to ride a boat, and they serve beer on tap. And so I think that really does define. Or if you prefer, they have rosé, okay, that cover the gamut. It's an amazing thing, whether it's for commuting or whether it's for just getting around to any appointments you have, or just for the fun of it. It's a brand new thing that's making life in the city better, coming to Astoria next month. And we're very excited about it. It will be 20 minutes from Astoria to 34th Street. So that ain't bad. That ain't bad. One last point, just in terms of all the things that make our communities work, that make them places we want to raise our families and the kinds of places we love. I know there are some things the government has not done so well and some things that have taken too long and been very frustrating, and one is the Steinway Library. And that's been going on for a while. Too many years of delays. In the preparation for this town hall meeting, got the story of how long the renovations were delayed, and bluntly, I found it unacceptable. So I said we've got to change this and get it going right away. So I can tell you that the construction for the renovation at library will begin this coming spring. I guarantee that. We're going to get underway with those changes. Finally, one public service announcement before we open up to your questions. You may have noticed coming over here, we got a little heat situation here. The National Weather Service has issued a heat advisory. It will continue until 6 p.m. tomorrow, so the temperatures tomorrow will be in the low 90s. The heat index is going to feel like the high 90s, and you will definitely feel that, and so we want people to be careful. Take extra precautions to stay hydrated. Make sure your whole family's staying hydrated. Stay indoors if you can. Stay in air conditioning if you can. If you've got neighbors, particularly anyone who's vulnerable, keep an eye on them. Check in on senior citizen neighbors in particular. Make sure they're okay. Remember also, part of your family is your pets, and pets also need to stay hydrated when it's really hot out. If you're someone or you know someone who doesn't have a cool place to be during the day, they can call 311, and we will have cooling centers open and available throughout this heat situation for any New Yorker who needs them. So, look, I want to thank everyone for being here. I look forward to really hearing what's on your mind and showing you all the things we can do to address your concerns. And I really appreciate that you're here because you care about this community. Thank you very, very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and very excited to hear about Steinway Street. As very, very excited. So let's see. Everyone got their hands up? All right, so Miss right here. Yes.
Microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to know how your 421A enforcement and compliance unit is going to work.
Okay, I'm impressed. So, look, we fought very hard to change the 421A law. This is a law that used to give tax breaks to developers even if they built luxury condos. We fought very hard to change the law in Albany to focus it on affordable housing. But you're right, there has to be enforcement to make sure that the tax breaks are only given if a developer does what they're supposed to do. Now, our housing commissioner is supposed to be here already. I've been talking. I want to remind all my public servants, when you hear your topic, come on over. Commissioner of HPD, Maria Torres Springer, talk about enforcement.
Yes. Thank you very much for the question. So as the mayor mentioned, the reforms that we were able to achieve as part of the new legislation assures that we have affordability every time that tax abatement is used, and we are no longer subsidizing luxury condos across the city. Enforcement is really important, which is why in the last budget, additional staff was added to my agency, HPD, to ensure that we are able to make sure that all the developers are complying with all of the new provisions in terms of the new legislation. If there is a particular project that you are interested in learning about or a particular provision of the legislation that you want to hear more about, I'd be more than happy to talk with you afterwards.
Can you describe to her the gruesome penalties that occur if someone tries to cheat us? Yes, I knew you would.
Yeah.
I felt that. I felt you wanted to hear that part.
No, our review starts really from the beginning to make sure that if you are applying the application you send in, that you are meeting the major requirements of the program, and to the extent that you're not, then we're able to claw back benefits.
Clawback.
And to levy other types of...
I'm going to do the visualization for you.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So it's very rigorous. We take the responsibility very seriously because we know that these are taxpayer dollars, and we want to put them to good use.
Can I do a visual here? Okay. Pretend you're a developer, and you're getting a tax break, but then it turns out you cheated us. That's a clawback, okay? That's how it works. Yes, and we are going to be very vigorous because we believe the program only works if it is followed specifically and rigorously, so we'll be on it. We can't do too much back and forth because we got to get to everyone else, but you can follow up with her. Thank you.
Hey, hey, Miss, right here in the front.
I want to welcome you, Mayor,
Thank you.
but I got 3 things for you.
You got one thing for me.
Okay. Our garbage and our jobs out here.
Say again?
Garbage and our jobs.
Okay.
They're both together. Mm-hmm. Why are you not working on that?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Try me one more time.
The jobs. Let me first say the garbage.
Okay,
A
so
lot
let's
of
do the
cleanup
garbage.
to do.
Okay, one thing,
lot of
garbage.
cleanup
Where's the concern?
Historian. I'm an historian.
Okay.
Historian houses. My name is Mercedes Lugo.
Okay, Mercedes, our sanitation commissioner, Catherine Garcia. So just give us what specifically is bugging you about the situation.
Trash all over the grass. I know we can't control the air, this and all that, but our
Okay,
garbage,
nitrogen too.
our garbage in our buildings, our garbage
Okay.
that don't get picked up.
So now we're going to go to the general manager of the housing authority, Michael Kelly. What can we do to improve the environment there?
Well, we are now looking at having a more routine service working with.
Speak up.
We're now looking to improve our services, and thanks to the mayor, we have compactors that we're going to be installing. And any particulars, I'd love to take a tour with you to see what specific issues you may have.
We're going to send the general manager to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Deblasio.
you.
All right. Next up, Norma. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, and welcome to Community Board 1. As the recently appointed new chairperson of Community Board 1,
Congratulations.
thank you. And I'm glad you addressed the getting around in Astoria. I would like to present the issue of the Taxi Smart Card program. Are you familiar?
I cannot tell a lie. The Taxi Smart
Smart
Card
Card
program. No, but
which is a
the TLC commissioner is coming to
collaboration.
save me.
Yes, which is a collaboration between the Mayor's Office of Disability and the DIFTA, the Department for the Aging.
Okay.
And what they do is they give the disabled and seniors the opportunity to contribute $12.50 for a smart card that they then receive $100
Okay.
that they can use in Liberty Taxi, a regular taxi.
I'm glad I came to this meeting because I've learned something new already.
So the sad news is it's discontinued, right?
It was
Yeah.
discontinued.
This was going
to-
good until now.
Yes.
That was a big problem. That was a big problem.
I want
Okay.
to bring it to
Yeah.
your attention because, as you know, as a senior myself,
Yes.
I go to the senior centers, and there was
Okay.
so much disconcern that it was discontinued.
So you're saying,
2
again,
years
everyone's
ago.
got, we want to get everyone to get their point out quick just for the good of everyone else. So you're saying you think it should be renewed.
Exactly, reinstated.
Let
Okay.
me,
Our TLC Commissioner, Mira Joshi.
without getting into too much of the gory detail, it was discontinued due to the fact that it relied on debit cards, which banks are having difficulty processing that way. So it was a practical hurdle that the MTA faced. There are 2 other initiatives that are ongoing that I think you should know about. One is accessible dispatch that's now available throughout Manhattan. You can call a number and a taxi will come to you, and a wheelchair accessible taxi will come to you. We're expanding that citywide this year. That means in a few months you'll be able to do that in Astoria as well. You can go on the internet, you can call, you can use your cell phone, and you can order a green or yellow taxi to come to you, and they're all accessible. So if you have a mobility impairment, this will be the ideal vehicle for you. Okay. The second thing is the MTA is working with Accessoride to incorporate more of the accessible taxis into Accessoride service so that people that use Accessoride can have a mainstream experience. They don't have to wait 24 hours to order and 3 hours to hope that the car comes in 3 hours. It's a substitute for the subway, so it should be more on demand, just like the subway.
Excellent, Mira. And now our Aging Commissioner, Donna Corrado.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi. So some of the lessons that we learned from the pilot project and
Yes.
Taxi Smart were integrated, thankfully, into these new programs, the new transportation programs. Okay. And we're also issuing an RFP for another Taxi Smart-like program that incorporates an easier way for us to facilitate the technology. And that was really the stumbling block. So while we gave out cards that seniors can spend up to $100,
Right.
we found that they barely spent it at all. It was just too difficult. So we're going to make it easier, and we're going to
Okay, we can't do follow-ups.
I know.
I know you're
Okay.
committee board chair. We got to keep
Timeline,
moving.
the
Yeah,
timeline.
Thank you, but we're going to
Right
keep
here
up.
Blue.
Great.
We're
Thank
following
you.
up on. Thank you for
Thank-
bringing it up. Very much appreciated.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman.
evening.
For a long time, I was a New York City private sanitation worker and now serving as a representative of Teamster Local 813. We're the New York Private Sanitation Union. Being a private sanitation remains one of the most deadliest jobs. It also, in the industry where many workers are forced to work off the books without overtime and rapid wage theft. We thank you for committing to reform this industry through the commercial waste zone. How do you think this policy will help raise standards for workers?
So I'm going to, before I turn to the Sanitation Commissioner, I want to say 2 things. One, we are very vigorous in your industry and all industries about wage theft. We've really beefed up the ability of our Department of Consumer Affairs to do more in terms of fighting wage theft. This has been a big problem in this city, so I'm glad you raised it because we don't tolerate it. Second, we are looking at every way we can, in addition to helping the folks who do the work, to take as much of the burden off of our streets as we can. I think a lot of the way that the industry was configured before wasn't good in terms of congestion or the environment. So that's part of why we came up with a new plan. But in terms of how we are going to use the plan to make sure workers are treated fairly, Councilman
Right,
Garcia.
so one of the things about moving to a system in which there is zone collection, it gives the city a lot more regulatory authority over the private collection service by carters, which means that we can require them to have safety plans. We can require them to have training plans so that you are safe in the street. We can also require them to have vehicles that meet certain standards so that those are safe to drive. And those are just a couple of things we're looking at. But we're not waiting until we implement. We've been working closely with the Business Integrity Commission, which also regulates the carting companies, to make sure they're doing safety as soon as we have good ideas and implementing it now under their regs.
Thank you.
I'm just going to quickly pause. So that our public advocate, Letitia James, who's joined us this evening, has the opportunity to say a few words and greet us.
I just happened to be in the neighborhood. It's an honor and a privilege to be here this evening. I just want to thank all of you for coming out and taking civic engagement very serious, and for holding the mayor, his feet to the fire, and thank all of you for all that you are doing in standing up and protecting your community. It's an honor and a privilege to represent you as your public advocate. And I also wanted to make sure, as the public advocate, that I continue to monitor the mayor of the city of New York, and that's why I'm here. Thank you so much.
She's watching. Wait, Costa. There's a woman following me around, monitoring my activities.
I can try to help you with that, Mr. Mayor, but I'm not sure the right guy. Alex, go ahead.
Thank you for coming, Mayor.
You're very welcome.
On the mayor's initiative, portable high-intensity lights were installed around the city on these portable generator units. I live across the street from the Ravenswood Housing Project on 34th Avenue, and there's a unit on 34th Avenue on the Ravenswood side that's supposed to light up a very large athletic field there. But the thing is that some of those lights are turned northward across the street into the North Queensview Co-op, and they light up my bedroom, and I can't sleep.
Okay, that's fair. Now,
I've been trying to find out who to call.
I want someone from PD on this one too. Who wants to step up? Okay, so let me.
Trying to find out who to call, and I just don't know.
You're in the right place. Okay, we have come all the way to you. This is called the. This is a little bit of Murphy's Law here. Like whenever you try and do something, it turns out there's another consequence. So we worked very hard to figure out places in public housing that didn't have enough light, that we thought were proven that lack of light was making them less safe. And that was the motivation for putting in the light units. Okay, so that's a good, no, I haven't missed your point. I'm getting there. So I want everyone to understand, we didn't just say, hey, let's throw some lights around. We thought it was about addressing a safety problem. That being said, you have to aim the lights the right way. So, and obviously we don't want to cause a problem for folks who live in the immediate area. So in terms of who you talk to, well, Michael Kelly is the general manager of NYCHA, runs all the day-to-day operations of NYCHA. But I wanted to get a PD perspective too, because the point is we need that light to do its job, safety for everyone in the community. So the point I want you two to work together on is to aim it conveniently, but still in a way that keeps everyone safe. Do you have a comment on this?
Will do. Definitely, we'll get it done.
Okay, that's a good comment.
There
You're good. This is your committee right here.
I'm gonna have my friends talk to you right afterwards. Besides
right here?
Right now.
We miss each other.
Right here.
That's
right.
Absolutely.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Everyone knows the property tax system is broken and unfair.
Yes, that's true.
Why fight the new attempt to fix it?
Well, I don't think the new quote-unquote attempt to fix it. I'm not being difficult with you. I'm saying I take issue with the new attempt because it goes through the court system, and I don't think that's where laws should be made. I think laws should be made by the people you elect to make laws. When you give that process over to judges, are not accountable to you in the same way. I'm not saying they don't do their job well, but they're not accountable the same way. I've said very clearly, if the people will have me back, this is going to be a big priority in the second administration because it's going to take several years to fix. It's going to require city legislation. It's going to require state legislation. It's going to be a very complex thing to create fairness within the property tax system while at the same time basically keeping the same amount of revenue for the city overall, right? But I can tell you one thing. What I know, the system is not consistent across neighborhoods. It's not transparent enough. I know a lot of those pieces can be fixed, but I believe the people you elect should take responsibility for that.
All right, so let me see right here.
Hi, I'm chair of the Parks Committee for the Community Board. And first of all, I'd want to compliment you and the councilman for securing such wonderful programs as the CPI initiative, which is rebuilding a lot of our playgrounds. In Community Board 1, we're lucky enough to have had 4 such sites, which is probably more than any, I know more than any other board in Queens. And also the initiative in Astoria Park, which is going to end up with some wonderful new tracks.
I like everything you're saying, but I want you to get to your question for everyone's
Okay,
good.
the question is very simple. You have all these wonderful capital projects coming up. But we need to give more tools to our staffs and the Parks Department. We need to increase the expense budget for maintenance, for PEP officers. And I think the Queens ought to be getting a bigger portion of the city's budget in terms of maintenance.
Did Melinda
and
Katz make you
expense.
say that? And I was like, oh, she's gone. She didn't get to hear. Okay. Okay, yeah, I knew you were somewhere. This is like the plant in the audience. His quote, I think Queens should be getting a bigger proportion of the city budget. That's good. That's a winning hand. Okay, so you're saying in terms of you like the initiatives, but your concern is the level of staffing and things like that?
Level staffing, equipment.
Okay.
You know, also, and PEP officers, facilities is capital. I'm worried about expense right now.
Okay, I got you. So, Commissioner, I know you are here to defend the interests of your wonderful team, which has done great work. Speak to the question of whether you have the tools you need to be able to cover what you have to cover.
I have to first say Richard Kazami does a really good job as Parks Chair of the committee, so I want to thank you. We have really strong volunteers in community in Astoria Park who help us as well, and I have a good team who maintain the park.
Yeah.
We do really well. The Central Astoria Local Coalition is giving us donations. We bought equipment with them. Council members supported staff in the park. And Richard, you know we could always work together to do more. But Mr. Mayor, we have a very strong budget. We have seasonal staff in the park. Norman's our manager. We're feeling pretty good, but you know, we want to work with you to do better.
All right, thank you very much.
So I'm going to go this way. Right here.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity this evening. In light of the very hostile and unwelcoming federal immigration policy, Queens County is one of the most ethnically diverse counties in the United States, with Astoria being one of the most ethnically diverse neighborhoods in Queens County.
Yes.
There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty and worry among the immigrant community. People are stopping to see their no longer seeing their healthcare providers. They're not dropping out of going to the library and being civically engaged. They're afraid to report crimes if they're domestic violence victims and things of that nature. I'd love to hear more about the future policies and strategies to make our immigrant neighbors and friends in Astoria feel welcome and safe and engaged in the community again.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to just talk about the overall picture, and I'll talk about what we're trying to do. I really appreciate the question, and I think the point that you're saying about the fear that has now permeated the community, I wish it weren't true, but I see it all the time. It is true. And it's causing too many people to either avoid the things they need and their family needs, or at least to worry they shouldn't pursue them, which is the exact opposite of everything we try and say all day to people. We want folks to take advantage of educational opportunities and healthcare opportunities, and this environment's made that a lot tougher. What I say about the national picture, it's a difficult time. I refer to it as our national identity crisis because I think the country is sorting out what our real values are, and I believe if you look at what really is going on underneath at the grassroots, this country is becoming ultimately more embracing of its immigrant character and its multicultural, multi-faith character. I believe that's the way of the future. It may take a few elections for that to be fully realized, but I really believe that's the direction. Here in this city, it begins with all of the city agencies, NYPD, Department of Education, Health and Hospitals, you name it. We don't ask documentation status. We won't ask documentation status. We're really clear about that. And it's interesting, in terms of interactions between the immigrant community and NYPD, this is maybe a little bit of a good news story within this difficult moment. Because there was such a strong history of the NYPD not asking documentation status, we still see a lot of immigrants feeling comfortable coming forward to NYPD because it's so well established that that's not going to have a negative consequence in terms of immigration. With schools, we've made a very big point that I think parents felt and heard, that we're not going to allow ICE agents into schools, that we have very strict rules about that, and the ability to enforce those rules, and school safety as part of NYPD is going to be in the front line of that. We obviously have done things to try and show welcome, first ID NYC, and then more recently for folks who are undocumented who face deportation. With the City Council, we've literally put together a substantial fund for legal services to protect families from being deported. So I think a lot of the right signals are being sent, and I think they're being heard, but we still face an environment of fear, and our job is just to work against it every day, to constantly reinforce the sense of welcome and respect, and that, you know, to make clear that federal policies do not force the city to do things that are against our values. Thank you.
Let's see, right here.
Welcome, Mayor.
Thank
My
you.
issue is public parking. It seems to me that with all the buildings going up, it's getting harder and harder to park. And it seems that there's a lot of illegal curb cuts and houses, people park their cars up on the sidewalk in front of their house, and that takes away from street parking. Now, I don't know if it's legal or not, but it seems to me like it's happening more and more.
I think it's a real problem. On the first point, look, the challenge we're facing as a city, we know we're growing. That's got some very good things to it and some real challenges to it. We're not going to grow the way we used to, which is with a very automobile-focused approach. That was true in the past. It can't be true in the future. We have to, one way or another, we have to change the model so there's more and more mass transit available and it's easier and easier to use. And so that's why I'm very, very hopeful about, for example, what the new ferry service means, what light rail could mean from Astoria down to Brooklyn. That could be a big change for people. We're very hopeful about select bus service, which has been growing all over the 5 boroughs and has been a big hit because it's fast. These are all parts of the solution that help people not need to be so dependent on a car. And if they're not so dependent on a car, they have the option that they can, you know, do car sharing. They can do the different services you can rent from, like for limited periods of time. There's all sorts of options. We hope this will open up more. But to your core point about how people are abusing some of the rules, let's talk about this. Where either illegal curb cuts or parking on the sidewalks, what the consequences on those are. Right, and the commercial vehicles around, particularly mechanic places and all that, which we want NYPD to come over and talk about too, how we're handling that. Go ahead.
Sure.
From Buildings Department, Tom Farrell.
Yeah. Curb cuts for residential buildings and also for commercial are mandated by the zoning, right? So where they can go, when they can't go, and certainly parking parallel to the curb, you know, on their property, or on, you know, grass area or some other, if they paved it also, you know, those are all illegal, right? And so if you give us these addresses where you have an issue with, I have someone here from my office, we could certainly send an inspector out there and we would issue violations and, you know, they'd have to go to ECB court to handle that violation.
What's the consequence for an illegal curb cut if you put it in front of your own property illegally? What's the consequence for that?
Yeah, we would issue a violation, and that would go to ECB court. They would
give me a dollar figure. What's the consequence, roughly?
Yeah, it would be under $1,000. But then, if they keep doing it, then we would keep going out there.
Right. This is the important point.
Compound.
Multiple violations start escalating, so it gets into the thousands of dollars. That's when people start to pay attention, obviously. So anything can be reported to Department of Buildings for follow-up. And then on the point about the auto body places and other places that put the vehicles on the sidewalk, what can the precinct?
Sure. So the derelict vehicle issue has been a huge issue in the 114, and we've done several operations working with sanitation and using our road tow ability to remove these cars and taking them off the street, and we're going to continue to do that. If you do have a specific location, and the great part about this neighborhood coordination officer that the councilman and the mayor had brought up before, my NCOs are all here. So afterwards, see me, we'll take down specific locations, and we'll work with you hand in hand to fix the problem.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Tony Barsamian, and I'm the chairman of the Steinway Astoria Partnership, the Steinway Business Improvement District. I want to thank you, and I want to thank Costa, our city council person, for doing a great job in trying to implement the DOT changes that you led off in your analysis.
Thank you.
Astoria is booming, and we would like to bring Steinway Street back. We are such a great street historically that they named a piano after our street. I would like to see the decline in retail addressed by our elected officials in the best possible way. Retail is on the decline throughout the country, but we're feeling it on Steinway, which was the pinnacle of local shopping for many, many years. You all shop on Steinway Street, right?
Okay, loyal group.
We would like to find a way to help reduce the property taxes, which are now higher than the rents used to be just a dozen years ago. If you can find some way to help us address this.
You mean for the commercial establishments? Okay. This is something I'm going to say that we are considering for the future. I mean, the property tax issue for homeowners is one piece of the equation, and for all residences. The commercial tax is another piece of the equation. We're looking at how we can address that. Now, I have to be real with you, and I try in town hall meetings to be very straightforward. The big X factor, and it refers to the previous question, the big X factor is what's going to happen in Washington, D.C. in the next 6 months. Because I think we're going to see in the next 6 months what the results of the Trump presidency are for the city of New York. For example, any day now, we may see a major impact on the city because of the Affordable Care Act living or dying or being modified. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We're fighting every single day and working with mayors all over the country to stop changes to the Affordable Care Act, because the example of that would mean is up to 1.6 million New Yorkers could lose insurance. What that would mean would be for the city budget, hundreds of millions of dollars more that we'd have to put into our public hospitals to make up for the fact that so many uninsured people were going to them. That's one example, let alone all the cuts that are proposed in the federal budget for the fall. So my honest point about anything where we may lose revenue going forward, we may choose to reduce taxes or things like that, depends on us knowing what's going to happen in Washington. I can't tell people now, hey, I've got something where I'm going to reduce revenue until I know what the truth is from Washington. But going forward, we are trying to find every way we can to reduce pressure on small businesses, and definitely the council is very interested in this question, too, of what we can do on the tax side.
Without a doubt. I mean, for all of you that know, I mean, Steinway Street is the commercial beating heart of our neighborhood. And we recognize that. And we've done through the neighborhood preservation grant that we've been able to do the last 2 years, been able to give the Steinway Partnership dollars to promote itself.
And we cannot thank you enough. You deserve a huge round of applause, Costa. A big hand. You have been a great supporter and friend to Steinway Street. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, also.
We will, absolutely. Go ahead right here.
Hi. I'm a citizen.
Okay, good start.
So I was happy that you mentioned Vision Zero in your initial comments, and I appreciate that you're trying, except that statistics indicate the cyclist deaths went up this year, and I personally do not feel anything from Vision Zero.
No, I don't doubt if you, human beings' perceptions can never be challenged, but another human being. So I trust your feelings, but I'm going to give you some statistics.
That's why I cited statistics.
Yeah, I think are very, very real. So you keep going, but I'm going to offer my perspective.
So I'm not going to say any more on my opinion because I have a lot of it. But I want to hear what you and the NYPD are going to be doing in the future to push down on dangerous car driving.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's very frustrating as a cyclist when a cyclist gets killed by a car, such as the girl that was trying to ride up First Avenue recently, and then the response by that from the NYPD is that ticketing of cyclists is going up, and then there's no more ticketing of cars in bike lanes or cars performing dangerous maneuvers or cars blocking the box, etc.
Okay, I appreciate the question very much. So the really important point, first of all, anyone who's a cyclist and feels endangered, I take that very seriously because the world we're trying to create is where cyclists feel protected, and pedestrians as well. And you know how much of the challenge, and Queens unfortunately has too painful a history on this, most notably Queens Boulevard. Okay, well, I'm still going to make the point about Queens, that Queens has a long history, and Queens Boulevard was the shocking exemplar both for pedestrians and for bicyclists. And we now have changed the reality on Queens Boulevard so much that we've gone several years without a fatality in a place that used to have as many as 20 fatalities a year. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's changing. It's changing, thank God. And I want to give a lot of credit to Department of Transportation, to the Taxi and Limousine Commission, NYPD. They've all worked together. But the thing I always tell people about Vision Zero is it's only begun. This is going to lead to a series of physical changes all over the city, whether it's bike lanes or pedestrian islands or all sorts of things that are going to change the ability of people to feel safe. We believe, and I'm very open about it, and I'll say it in front of everyone, I believe that speed cameras around schools are really necessary, and we need more, and we're going to keep fighting for more. But NYPD is a crucial piece of the equation too, and the mandate I've given NYPD is to greatly increase enforcement on speeding and on failure to yield to pedestrians, but obviously any other unsafe activity. So, and those numbers have doubled and tripled in recent years. So Chief, tell everyone about what additional efforts you'll be making in terms of enforcement to keep people safe through Vision Zero.
First of all, I spoke about this yesterday also at the resource fair that I was in attendance with. First and foremost, education. Naturally, we can issue summons all day long. We're issuing summonses to motorists, failure to yield to the right-of-way. Injuries to pedestrians are down tremendously, I think 49% in the patrol borough of Queens North, so it's tremendous decrease. Unfortunately, bicycles, I know this bicyclists were up about 22% as far as injuries are concerned. So yes, we have increased the summonses, 53%. As far as bicyclist violations to motorists, but I think it's more important to educate, everyone. Bicyclists, a lot of times, they buy bikes. It doesn't come with the rules and regs, right? Traffic rules and regs that bicyclists should abide by, and how to stay safe, and vests and bells and horns. So that's something that people can actually get online. I explained that yesterday. It was someone from the Dominican community who was concerned about a lot of their cyclists, delivery cyclists, and things of that nature. It's in both languages, Spanish and English. You can actually get all the rules and regs to stay safe. But naturally, we are hammering away with motorists and educating them. But also, there's discipline. You violate, and you're issued a summons. But I think education is key when it comes to that. Did I answer your question? Or is it something more you need me to say? No, I don't believe that, because I just conveyed that the summons for bicyclist violations against motorists are up 53% in the patrol borough of Queens North. So that's not pushing it on the bicyclists. But I want the bicyclists to be safe. It's like a child crossing the street. We want them to be safe. We tell them, look both ways and take whatever precautions. So that's why I think education, it's a good tool also when you're talking about the cyclists.
Let me get DOT in this as well.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add that we are re-engineering our streets so that they are safer. So the mayor mentioned Queens Boulevard, where we added more pedestrian space and also bike lanes. And in the first phase, which goes from Roosevelt Avenue to 74th Street, we've seen pedestrian injuries decline by nearly 50%. To cyclists, it's about 42%. So where we're re-engineering streets, we're seeing that they're actually keeping pedestrians, bicyclists, and all road users safe.
Go ahead, right here. Unless you had written more on that topic.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Yep, they're coming.
Thank you so much. Hi.
Hi.
So I'm glad that you both are here. I appreciate that you briefly touched on the 421A tax abatement issue.
Get it
but
closer so that we can hear you.
Sorry.
Don't be shy.
I appreciate that you briefly touched on the 421A tax abatement issue and the way that landlords exploit that. But I would like to talk about and get some help with predatory landlords that harass and threaten rent-stabilized tenants.
Yep.
I've been in my apartment for 14 years. I am the last rent-stabilized tenant. All of my other neighbors have been harassed, basically forced to move out in the middle of the night. It's gotten so bad. They've received threats like, I'm the only American-born tenant. I was also a paralegal before I got into television production. I'm a producer. They've been told that they will have immigration problems if they talk to me. They have been told that not to talk to the black bee upstairs on the 3rd floor. It's to the point where we would meet in the laundromat across the street so that the cameras would not see them. My neighbors are terrified. I have filed complaints with DHCR, which have been proven in my favor. I've filed complaints with HPD, and those have also worked in my favor. I've gone to court and beat them twice. However, when it got to human rights, my case was, I received 2 letters, which I have here with me, that said they cannot pursue my case because of administrative inconvenience. I don't understand how that's possible.
Okay.
When I'm reading in the
I don't know what
that
that
they
phrase
have,
means,
and
first of all.
I have the letters.
I'll take the letters. Let me try the big picture, and then I want to see the letters. In terms of, because you're pointing to not only what might happen to you, but a pattern of harassment that could reach the level of criminality depending on what it is, and you were paralegal.
Absolutely. And
So I want Commissioner Banks, Commissioner of Social Services, to talk about, obviously, that we would provide legal help immediately, but could you describe the kinds of things that would then trigger working with the Attorney General and others on criminality?
I've also reached out to them as well.
But we're going to reach out now.
Oh,
so we're the government. We'll get involved too. So go ahead.
Ran here when I heard about this tonight, so I'm so glad.
Good. Go ahead.
So I'm sorry that this happened to you. We're going to follow up with you on your personal case and also try to work with you with the other people in the building. You've got social services and the housing agency here. We're teaming up together. The mayor's given us the resources to be able to implement for the first time in New York City the ability for every tenant in housing court to have a lawyer.
So important. So important.
It's a major initiative. And one of the reasons why that initiative has been funded by the mayor is to prevent this kind of harassment that's gone on for many, many years because of the imbalance of power in housing court, where landlords typically have lawyers and tenants typically do not. In terms of what the mayor is discussing with landlords that engage in this pattern of harassment, you probably have read about landlords that have been actually recently jailed in Brooklyn.
I'm hoping for that to happen to mine, to be honest.
And that's happened as a result of HPD, the Attorney General, the legal services programs that have been funded by the mayor through our agency, all working together, and the public advocate, who's a great...
I've actually met in her office twice as well.
So we will work with you, and for all tenants here, we have this service that's beginning to be
And I'll
available.
take your letters and I'll follow up and make sure my people follow up with human rights. Thank you very much.
Right there? Huh? Right there. There's,
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council Member. Thank you guys for being here. Andy Aujala, Community Board 1, and amongst many other hats. I appreciate all you're doing with Vision Zero. It seems like you have some grand plans. However, just about 2 years ago, there was a fatality at 19th Street and Ditmars, closer to Bachelor Pad, and nothing's been done at that intersection since. What measures can you take to make sure that that stays safe and that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that tragedy, and we are... Look, what we do in each case is try and figure out some of the things that we can do in the immediate area and the surrounding area to start to slow down traffic, because I think that is the fundamental issue, right? It's speeding, first and foremost, reckless driving, things we can do that are calming of traffic. So I know we talked about this, Nicole, the other day, some of the measures taken in that immediate area, including, I think, there was one speed reduction tool that we put in about a block away from that site. Could you speak to all that?
Okay, so we did have one speed bump between Shore Boulevard and I think 19th. Another one in the area was approved. And then following that crash, what we did was we spoke to our lighting division and we upgraded all of the streetlights to LED just to make it a more safer, inviting environment in and around the park and area. And what we recently did was along 19th, we did conduct studies, and we will be putting in enhanced crosswalks. So there's going to be additional signage. There's going to be actual markings that alert drivers, and that's going to be at 23rd Terrace and 23rd Avenue. Yes. So the point there is that we want to make sure that 19th isn't a barrier to the park, but rather a gateway. And that should be coming in probably early fall.
Thank you.
And I'm glad to hear that, because I know that,
Yes.
that Astoria Park is a jewel of our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And being safe to go there is a huge priority.
Amen. Amen.
All right. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hi.
I wanted to share these thank you notes to Astoria Park Alliance from Growing Up Green's first grade Giving Back ambassadors.
Thank you.
And it's a lovely, lovely little package
There
of
we
love
go.
notes.
Thank you.
We are Astoria Park Alliance. Building a community starts in the park. We're very grateful, very humbled, and very grateful for the $30 million Anchor Park designation. And we have a lot of passion around Astoria Pool, and we are looking to you to help us with funding the revitalization of that gorgeous pool that will need a big hunk of money, maybe as much.
Is that a formal term? A
That's
big
a Western
hunk of money?
term. That's a
Big
Western
hunk
term.
of money.
Big old hunk of money.
That's right.
Because I don't want to throw numbers around, but
right.
you know what we're talking about. And we would like to see that money come from the mayor's office, the borough president's office, our state senator's office.
Okay.
We are looking at a bigger ticket item, and we want your help.
Thank you. Okay, well, you're going to have to lead on this one, because this is a new one to me.
So I know that the Astoria Pool.
$30 million.
So the $30 million covered a lot of the park upgrades. But I think what Martha's speaking to is the pool complex, which is a landmarked entity that is in need of some major renovations, which we've talked about.
Now, some pieces, I'm trying to do the best I can to summarize what I've heard. So there is a plan around the amphitheater idea, and there is a plan for the wading pool, which Commissioner Silver and I spoke with a constituent about yesterday. So those pieces are moving forward. Let's make sure everyone knows what those are first. Go ahead.
The Astoria Pool, built in the 30s, is in need of repair, as you say. We have a few projects coming up, but you should know, Mr. Mayor, that we do have funding from the administration. We're doing a full study of all the mechanicals in the building itself so that we can put a full cost assessment to the entire facility. But in the interim, we have two projects that are coming forward. As part of the Anchor project, we are looking at taking the wading pool area and adding that into Charybdis Playground. And that's a good one. That's been good support from the community that people are interested in. And the wading pool, the diving pool, we do have a project that has been designed. We're in procurement, which means we're very close to putting the job out to bid. And by the end of this year, we'll be in construction to take the diving pool that many of you know is filled with water. It's very old, doesn't work. It will become decked over and be a usable space that we can use not only in the pool season, but in other times of the year with various activities.
So in terms of the core pool and the cost to take, I can't make a commitment tonight. I'm going to be real with you. But we're obviously on the way to figure out what that hunk of money would be. And then we can discuss it in the next budget process. He has a good batting average in the budget process, so stick with him.
Ryan, go ahead, right here. Here you go, man. And I know everyone wants to get their questions. I'm doing my best. We'll get there tonight. I promise you, we're trying.
Not necessarily everyone. We're going to go to 10 o'clock. Let's see how much we can get done. Let's see how much we can get done.
I'm
but we
optimistic. I'm an optimistic guy.
We need help. Come on, we got to get going.
Good evening, Mayor. It's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for coming here. On behalf of the Arabic and Muslim community, I'm a parent advocate and child welfare reformist. And I'm hoping if someone from ACS here tonight.
I'm not sure they are. ACS?
Unfortunately, very, very powerful institution that safeguard the safety of the children of our wonderful city and beloved country. I have worked with ACS for almost 15 years. I worked in the system. I worked as a family court
Okay, I
interpreter.
need you to get to the question. I'm sorry, just in the interest of time. What's your
Okay.
question?
My question is, which I was hoping to meet with someone.
Mm-hmm.
As we all know, after the first female commissioner stepped down, Ms. Carrion, we were hoping that she will bring more compassion to the system. We want to make sure that the children are removed for the right reason, the necessary reasons and the right reasons. Okay. We have seen the system being abused by a landlord after 9/11 and after the new anti-immigration laws. So we would like to make sure that ACS should do more meaningful outreach. I would like to welcome the new commissioner.
Okay, let me take it there. Thank you very much. So Commissioner Hansel would love to make sure Commissioner Hansel is meeting with community leaders, and we'll follow up. My representatives from the Community Affairs Office will make sure that that happens. On the question of making sure there is no anti-immigrant bias or any other kind of bias in the work of child welfare, we take that very seriously. And I know Commissioner Hansel is very committed to that. On the question of how we make the decision as a city, a very painful, very difficult decision of when it's a situation that requires a child to be removed or not, of course, a court has to ultimately affirm that decision, so there are checks and balances. But we of course value families staying together, but there's sometimes we come to the conclusion that it's dangerous to a child, and that's when we have to act. There's a process, there's a court review of anything like that before it happens, but it's a balance we're always trying to address. But the Commissioner will certainly have a meeting with you and your colleagues. There's no back and forth, my apology. The Commissioner will have a meeting with you to follow up.
Miss right there in the black.
Hi, thanks for calling on me. I'm here to tell on a co-op, to report them.
You're telling on them?
Yes, I'm telling on them.
We're not, school is earlier in the day. We're not in school here.
I think that they are driving people out of their homes. They drove me out. They foreclosed my home even though I had buyers. And they are known, if you Google them, as a very, what's the word, without cursing, a terrible place. They are they have the most high maintenance fee in Queens. Their name is the Parkway Village. I don't know if you've heard of them. I don't know if anyone's heard of them, but they are a terrifying co-op that took my place and is taking other people's place. They're not letting people sell their homes. And then I believe, but I don't have any proof. I tried to go to lawyers. I tried to go to representation. I believe that they are then selling it when it forecloses to someone that they know so that they can, I don't really fully understand it, but it seems really shady.
Okay, so this is obviously a little complicated, but we want to take it seriously, so our Housing Commissioner will follow up with you directly.
Thank you.
And we'll have people
Love
look
that.
into it. Thank you so much.
Hey, sir right there in a checkered shirt.
Yes, I work for JDRF, formerly Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. And first off, thank you so much for being a strong voice in the healthcare debate. We very much appreciate that. Here on the local level, we have many families that we deal with that are having a lot of trouble accessing the care that they need for their children in schools. You know, getting the proper nurses with the proper training, making sure that when their kids go on field trips that they have everything that they need to be safe. And I'm just wondering what the city is doing to make sure that kids, not just with diabetes, but across the board, are able to access the care that they need while they're in school.
While in school. Okay. Health Department. Deputy Commissioner.
Great. Well, as you know, every school in New York that has over 200 children has to have a school nurse, and we do our best to make sure that we have a school nurse in each school. And children who have diabetes get specialized care, one-on-one nursing, and we're working very hard to make sure that that nursing care is coordinated with their primary care physician or nurse practitioner. So if there's a specific case that you have in mind, I would love to talk to you about it and do what we can to make sure your child or all children in the schools are taken care of to the best of our ability. You're going to direct that to me. I'm going to take care of this. All right. George Askew. All right. Sure.
Okay. Go ahead.
How's everybody doing? My name is Andre Siff. I represent Astoria Houses, my Astoria constituents here. I'm also an organizing director for Zone 126, and I'm most importantly a father of 4, grandfather of 5.
Wow. Strong
my
man.
brother Ronnie over there. And my question is, In Astoria houses on 27th Avenue and 4th Street, there is a lot of construction going on in the Cove. There is a stop sign on the corner, both ways. Going down the hill, the buses can park sometimes at the corner. They stop there and wait. But buses there or not, the disrespect of that stop sign is beyond belief. I mean, and actually, NYPD do as much as they can, but they actually drove past yesterday. We were standing there, and 2 people ran the stop sign right where they were there.
So you wait, just make sure I understand. You're saying the buses are going through the stop sign?
Not the bus. Everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody. No, but what the buses do sometimes when they park on the corner where the stop sign is, some people can't see them, so that can be a blind spot. But if there's nothing there with the construction trucks,
so it's a dangerous situation.
Yes, it's a stop sign, but they go straight past and all day long.
NYPD first. What are we doing about enforcement in this area?
Just to clarify, you're talking about where that little strip of stores is on 27th Street there? Okay. I'm sorry, 27th Avenue, right.
A pizza parlor, so a lot of kids go across
Right.
the pizza, and they come down this. I mean, every day you will find a resident. This is what residents do all day. There's no stop sign, get over there.
Okay. So we'll definitely go back. We'll sit down with housing. We'll start addressing this immediately. I know there's several stop signs there. I know there's a stop light up there as well. Right, that's down at the bottom. Right. Okay. I know exactly what you're talking about. We know each other. I will definitely, we will address it for you.
And Andre, we have a request in as well, so.
What we can also
Yeah,
do
I figured
is,
that's where it came from.
Talk to the NCOs and see what they can do for you over there, okay? We're definitely going to talk to the NCOs, all right?
All right, so right here.
Thank you. My name is Mohammed Atia. Firstly, hi. I'm Mr. Deblasio. It's a pleasure meeting you. And I'm a food vendor. I live here in Astoria, and I work in Manhattan, Midtown. So we have many concerns about our bill. It has been introduced since October last year. It's a very, very tough situation. We heard a lot of enforcement coming in the bill, a lot of opposition we have from the bids, from like lots of agencies are not so happy with the bill the way it is right now. So like my question is about enforcement. How do you see the enforcement with the new unit coming up? As a vendor, I can tell you for over 8 years, I see a lot of enforcement from NYPD, from Department of Health inspectors, DCA inspectors. I can tell you that I get inspected in my push cart like 10 times more than any other restaurant. Restaurants never get inspected as many times as vendors get. So when it comes to a new agency that want to enforce the vending rules, what kind of enforcement you're looking at?
Well, look, we're trying to sort that out right now, and it's going to be a big public process to sort it out because here are the factors. There should be fairness all around, obviously. There needs to be health and safety rules that are enforced consistently. There needs to be, when we say enforcement, not just on health and safety, but also on the permits themselves. We want legal vendors. We want the maximum opportunity for people to become legal who are not yet. We want to stop what is a bit of an underground economy with the permits and all, right? So these are all factors we're trying to sort out. And what is the ideal number of vendors in this city? And then what we'd like to do, and this is the vision I've talked to the city council about, is get to that number and then really be rigorous about keeping to that number. And anyone outside that number understands that they would be out of compliance and the risks that come with it. And then the other question is the positions of specific sites, because you're right, there's been a lot of opposition from the brick and mortar stores, the physical stores, about what they feel is unfair competition. I think that's a lot about trying to decide what are fair locations for vendors that don't create unfair competition. A complicated picture. Those are all the factors. We do not have an answer. The goal is to come out of this with a rational system. Right now we don't have a rational system. A rational system. And I think, look, I would just predict this. I think the amount of enforcement might level off in that kind of system because right now, a lot of the enforcement obviously reflects around whether a cart is in the right place and whether it's even legal or not. If we create a situation where carts are more consistently legal and there's a more clarity about where they can be, I think that does take some of the enforcement out of the picture.
Right here. I'm coming back. I'm getting there.
Hello, thank you for coming and thank you for having us. I work for New York City Housing Authority, and I work also through Resident Watch for Tenant Association, and we need help. We need the help. We need the support, the supplies, everything that we can do to help residents, for them to stay safe, for them to come out 6, 7 o'clock in the evening and feel safe. I am thankful for the NCOs. I am very thankful for y'all. But we also need the help. We need locked doors. All our doors need to be locked. They're not locked. Our doors need to be locked. Our elevators need to have our cameras. I need the residents of Astoria houses to feel safe. I need the children, to feel safe playing in the playground. The NCOs need to come by and start asking them, are those your children? No, they're not. Why are you in this park? We have developments coming in. We have buildings coming up. We have people just walking in and out. We need the help. I need to feel safe. I need everyone to feel safe.
I hear you. No, I hear you. And we made this a priority in this past budget. We're beginning that step, taking those steps. Whether that's the new CCTV cameras that are going in, that we just funded in this year's budget, whether that's the new lighting in the NYCHA parking lots to make sure that the lighting is ample. But I know there's more we can do. So I know that I'm going to turn that, but we've begun that process by funding these projects in the Astoria houses. So I know that PD and NYCHA are going to sort of take it from there, but you have my commitment. We're going to continue to work on it.
What do you need from us as far as NCO goes?
Yeah, I'm going to...
More people on the ground. I need them when they're there to get out of their vehicles to walk around.
Yeah.
You're not helping when you're sitting in the vehicle. You help more when you're out there.
Okay, I want to just be careful on the back and forth, but I want us to respond. So your point is very well taken, that this is the central point I'm taking, is the most important fundamental human point. People need to feel safe in their own community, and we have work to do to get to that point. So first on what NYPD can do to continue to deepen safety, and then on the physical measures, Michael, that you can take. But let's start with NYPD.
Hi, I'm going to apologize because this is not actually the commanding officer, as you know. He was on vacation. But we would definitely have them look into it. I think how you can help us to help you. Do they have the times when you're sitting? They do have the times? Okay, do they come in during those times? But are they coming in during those times? Okay, so then we're going to then we'll put that in place. Okay, make sure, because I used to be a CO PSA too, and it was important to come in when we appreciate you sitting and being the eyes and ears for us, and we need you. So we'll definitely make sure that they're coming in during those times. And I actually have someone on that stop sign right now that you were complaining about. So, okay? All right. Thank you.
Hi, Mike Kelly, NYCHA. Good seeing you guys again. On the NYCHA side, we're going to be working with the council members' contributions for the lights. The cameras, the mayor has tasked me specifically to looking at expediting the installation of that equipment, and we're working with the FEMA work as well on that. So we're going to be doing that as quickly as we possibly can.
So just for everyone's benefit, clarify what we're going to be doing on the lighting.
On the lighting, because of the council members' contribution, which we just received, we're starting the design work right now, and we believe we can do the groundbreaking by early summer a year from now. So all the design work and the procurement will be done at that point.
Thank you very much. Hey, before we keep going around, I want to save the arms of my brothers and sisters from Local 3 who are here. Thank you. Thank you very much. These workers have been out now on 114 days. 114 days. So I just want to affirm, and I know the council member feels the same way, our strong support for the men and women of Local 3, the company Charter Spectrum, which is come in and taken over, a lot of you know, New York 1. I've said very clearly that they have taken way too much time to address this issue. It's time to settle this issue. We have offered City Hall as a place where the situation can be mediated. I went to the picket line today with the council member to send a message that we have run out of patience and we expect action, and we're going to use all the tools available to the City of New York to address this situation if Charter Spectrum does not come to the table immediately. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys. I've made my statement. We'll talk more about it. Going.
All right, guys, come on.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council Member Constantinides. I'm George Kitchos, President of the Greek American Homeowners Association, and we welcome you in Astoria.
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor. I like your little show regarding the dollar bill being taken from the developer who did not keep his promises. By the way, what is the status of the project, the Astoria Cove project, the mixed developer project?
Right. The Astoria Cove project is still waiting, so Maria's going to come and give us an update. What is the, just for everyone's benefit, the status of that project right now?
So for the Astoria Cove project, this was a project that went through the public approval process some years ago. It has been stalled. Their original plan for the project is about 1,700 units. It's the first project to also be mapped mandatory inclusionary, and what that means is that we're going to be able to do this now citywide wherever there is a rezoning. So whenever the project moves forward, there will be at least 25% of the units will be affordable housing. And so because the 421A legislation, there was a delay in that, in getting that renewed. They haven't made a lot of progress in terms of moving forward with the project, but the bottom line is that when it does happen, it will at least have 25% affordable housing, which is what we wanted, of course, given the mandatory inclusionary zoning policies that were enacted by the City Council. And we will, to the extent that there's more information about that, we'll be sure to keep the community apprised. But that's the status.
Right here. I'm gonna get you guys, I promise.
Hello, I'm a press, but I'm questioning on behalf of Long Island City resident because I live in Long Island City since 25 years. Long Island City has been changing, and there is a lot of construction going on there. And the people who are living since long time, middle class, low income people, they are feeling like helpless because everything goes up, the price goes up. They don't have any good sitting capacity. They cannot afford this area, and it's like they don't have any buyers. The city is like, this area is like become the people of the rich area, and no one is talking about the middle class, low income people.
Okay.
And also there is another issue which is...
Sir, one moment,
Okay.
sorry.
Behind you one.
Look, I understand that feeling very deeply. I hear it all over the city. Many, many communities where people are feeling they're fearful of being priced out and of the changes happening in their community. We are trying with a variety of tools to protect people. If you're someone, for example, in this city who lives in rent-stabilized housing, you had a rent freeze for the last 2 years. If you're someone who lives in public housing, we've put a huge amount of money into stabilizing public housing and protecting it for long term. If you're someone who's been threatened with eviction, the whole point we were talking about earlier, we're giving people lawyers for free to stop evictions. We also in the middle of a plan to build and also to subsidize enough affordable housing for 500,000 people. These are the tools that we have that we're applying all over the city. They don't stop the private market from being the private market. Right? I understand people's frustrations. I really, really do. But I think people also have to recognize the society we're living in. If I had the right to determine what got built everywhere and how much it costs, it would be a very different society. But, there are private property rights, and those developers are where they have the right to build, and they don't need city approval, which is in certain parts of the city, including Long Island City. They can build, they can get the price that they can get for their apartments, etc. When the city gets involved, where there's a rezoning, for example, we are able to set a lot more ground rules on how much affordable housing gets created. We passed a law with the City Council, which I'm very proud of. It's the most progressive affordable housing legislation in the country that says when a developer requires our approval to build, They have to. They are literally legally required to provide either 25% affordable housing or 30% affordable housing. So that's now the law of New York City where it applies, where there's new development and where they need our approval. So those are the things we're doing. It's not going to stop the private market from creating those pressures, but we think we can create some balance and we think we can create some options for affordability for people. Thank you.
This in the blue there.
You get a microphone.
Thank you. As a fourth-generation New Yorker and a message from my mom, she really wants me to pass on the message that we thank you immensely for standing up to Trump and making us feel proud to be Americans and New Yorkers.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Thank Mom for me.
Great deal to me. It really does.
Thank you.
My question is about Rikers. It's in our backyard.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't seem that broken windows policy and quota-driven police practices are helping to reduce numbers of inmates in Rikers Island. What are you going to do to change that?
The question's a very good question, but I want to just say, and I appreciate your comment previously, but I want to say I think we still in this city are not talking, in my opinion, we're not talking about this stuff the right way. For example, quotas definitely existed in the past. We have worked very hard to get rid of them. I'll give a great example. There used to be, I think, a huge over-reliance on stop and frisk, and it was obviously something that was used to grade officers, if you will, in a certain way at the precinct level. Stop and frisk has been reduced 93% in the last 3 years. That's one indicator. Arrests are down consistently, and this is, again, I think the debate, which is fueled by people having strong views, doesn't always get to some of the core facts. Arrests are down, and they're going down further. Across the board, while crime has continued to go down and gun seizures are going up, which proves that we can do a lot. The police are doing an amazing job with fewer arrests. And if there's fewer arrests, there's obviously fewer people going into the criminal justice system. There's much more use of summons. So then when the phrase broken windows gets put into the equation, I understand why for some people broken windows brings up very negative concepts. All right, some people like it too, but let me explain it. Let me explain it because I'm just hold back there. I want to give both sides of the equation. For some people, they hear it and they think about 20 years ago or more in this city when it was used the first time and the administration that used it. It's a very different concept today. I say quality of life policing. Quality of life policing to me is when the police are responding to concerns from the community and acting on them. But remember, this is something that was made very, very clear consistently by Commissioner O'Neill. Police now are being trained very differently to use their discretion, to use all their tools. Sometimes the best thing to do is just warn someone if they're doing something inappropriate, please stop doing that. Sometimes it's a summons. Arrest is actually the last resort. But the notion is if a quality of life concern is raised by the community, of course the police have to show up and address it. That being said, anything like a quality of life vision changes with time. For example, in our case, much more emphasis on Vision Zero, so that's more enforcement, but less enforcement on marijuana. We ended arrest for low-level marijuana possession, so which is, I think, was a very smart move by the NYPD. So forgive me for throwing in so much, but the sum total of that is arrests are going down, crime is going down. That's why we came to the conclusion that we could close Rikers, because we have to keep bringing down crime, but it's working. And that's going to allow us to close Rikers once and for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, miss, right here.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. I wanted to ask a question regarding, I know we spent some time talking about 421A.
Yes.
But I wanted to bring to the attention Section 3 of the policy and to try to get some understanding as to what type of compliance or oversight is being done for developers who make concessions to communities to build their projects. And once they build those projects, they're not adhering to Section 3, which, you know, has, I'm sure you know more about it than I do, but I think it would be, I really would like to see some oversight on that, because I am a resident on 2nd Street where Hallett's Cove is, and on speaking with a number of residents, I know that there are many who have the forego to be contractors, but they're not being selected because the people that are being selected are, you know, their friends, and that needs to stop.
Now, look, I want to speak to this, and I need both of you. I need both of you on purpose. Come over. Let me start. I'm going to pass to you. Okay. There is a long history of commitments made by developers being broken. Let's just start with that. That is a fact in New York City. I was in the city council. I had a huge critique of the previous administration for making quote-unquote affordable housing commitments with developers and then not keeping them. That's not, in my understanding of the law, is not Section 3 per se. Section 3 refers to when federal monies are spent. Am I right about that? Okay. So I want to clarify, but your underlying point is equally valid. I just want to say Section 3 is, in my experience with it, a very vague, unfortunately vague, guideline about when federal funds are spent maximizing employment by public housing residents,
right,
which we are trying to do more of, even though it is not really a law with any teeth. And we believe in it, but it's not a law with any teeth.
Yeah.
Affordable housing commitments and other commitments made by developers in rezonings, that's binding. And we have tools for addressing it. So I'm going to go in reverse order. I want you to speak to that first. Yes. When with, you were talking about Hallett's, right?
Yes.
With Hallett's, any commitments made in the rezoning process, how you as a Department of Housing compel developers to keep their commitments and what you do to them if they don't keep their commitments.
So anytime there is public funding, say HPD funding in a project, and for a lot of projects across the city, whether they have they have to go through a rezoning or not, they do get public subsidy. And for a lot of those, there are commitments that are about local hiring, that are about the target hiring or MWBE participation, and those run with the contracts that we have with developers. To the extent that they don't comply, each and every one of those has a penalty, and it'll differ based on what the infraction will be, but we take very seriously the responsibility of making sure that if we are moving forward with a project, if we're providing a public subsidy, that we make sure that they are living up to their end of the bargain.
Maria, I'm interrupting you. Give examples to everyone of the kind of penalties depending on the severity of the violation.
Well, there are, for targeted hiring, for instance, you are supposed to work with the public workforce system if there is an there's a job that is associated with a project that should now, that should go through, say, SBS's Workforce One system. Every time you do not do that, there are potential liquidated damages for each and every opening that you do not post. And that is in the few thousand, and every time you do that, that type of penalty could be levied on you. So we tried, it's the same concept of compounding every time you don't comply with a requirement. And the same is true for MWBE. If you don't, we want to make sure that you're making good faith efforts to comply with those requirements. And if you don't, it really does affect future business that you do with the city, and we work with you to make sure that you actually do comply. Now, those are different. I just also want to be clear, those are the requirements about target hiring in MWBE, but on the affordability side, if you say that you are going to, those units are going to be affordable to families of a certain income, we make very sure that they are then leased up to those families of those income. Otherwise, you are not in compliance with your contract, and we make sure to enforce that. And sometimes that means taking back the land.
At NYCHA, we have a resident engagement, community engagement group. We have a resident employment and economic sustainability function that does outreach on the front end to make sure the residents of the public housing, and as much as possible the residents around the public housing, know about job opportunities, do the working with our sister agencies. We do sort of like making sure we can get the types of job development so our residents and the neighborhoods, when they get to the job, they are ready to have the work. And on the compliance side, on the back end, if it's a public procurement, we go through a compliance exercise with the contractor. We say, how many Section 3 hires do you have? And during the course of the construction, we have our people go about and make sure that they are meeting those requirements.
Thank you. Okay, I keep moving. Thank you.
All right, so it looks like I have probably our youngest questionnaire this morning, I think in junior high school or high school, so 12, so there we go.
Thank you for being here tonight, Mayor. My question is about the homeless rate in New York City. I feel that you've made a great effort to push homeless centers so there are less homeless on the streets. Yet, there's a report by the New York Daily News which shows that the homeless rate is up by nearly 40% and nearly 1,100 more homeless citizens on the streets of New York today. So you can tell me why this is the situation we have?
Sure. Thanks very much for the question. So the overall reality of homelessness in this city has changed a lot for a lot of us who have been here for decades. It used to be about single individuals, primarily single men, often with mental health problems, etc. Now it is more and more in terms of folks who lose their homes, it's families, it's folks who are working, it's folks who lose their homes for economic reasons, not because of any other social challenge. Those folks are ending up in our shelter system, and we're trying with everything we can to, over time, reduce that shelter system and focus on getting people to permanent affordable housing. Street homelessness, which is around 4,000, which is slowly but surely getting hundreds of homeless folks to come in and stay off the street. That's the good news. The bad news is we did see an uptick in the number recently. We think some of that was because of the day the survey was taken, which was an unusually good weather day and kind of threw off the comparison to previous years. But we know some of that is also just the plain difficulty of anyone to find housing. Even folks with different challenges used to be able to find like single room occupancy housing, that kind of thing for low cost. That doesn't exist hardly anymore. So our solution is, it's an imperfect solution because it's going to take a long time, is heavy, heavy engagement. And anybody in this room, if you see someone homeless on the street, we want you to call 311. We send over our homestat teams. Sometimes it takes them dozens of attempts to get someone off the street. Sometimes it literally takes them hundreds of attempts, but they have now already gotten about 700 people plus off the street in the last year or so, and those folks have stayed off the street. So the model's working, but it's very, very labor intensive. We will continue it.
All right, Miss right here in the stripes.
Hi, thank you for coming. Paula Avila, Astoria resident, but also a women's advocate, and I have been working for the last 2 years on mainly Zika in Latin America. And I know you have a big campaign around Zika, which is really good. However, one of the biggest measures that they can be taken is to reduce spaces in parks where water gets still and they are like repressed. And there is a specific park by my house that is on 37th Street and 20th Avenue, where every time it rains, the water just like stay there, especially by the basketball courts for like 3 days. And I know that they do an effort to clean it, but not only makes it difficult for people to enjoy,
Gotcha.
but also.
Now, I want to do two different parts here because I want to make sure I'm getting this right. So this is Wood Tree Park. So we have figured out a way to get that water out of there. So, and this is only recently, so we just talked about this in the last days, that the Parks Department has a plan to do it now that is working. Commissioner, you want to talk about it?
Yes, I can. We rented a truck. It's a large jet vac. It cleared the line out. There were tree roots that were blocking the sewer line. That's now been cleared. And Norman Chan, the manager, every time it rains, we check just to make certain, but after the last rain, it worked well. And we painted the backboards. We fixed up the basketball courts a little bit more, so I think you'll be happy.
So that's that part. Now, on the second part about Zika, I want to test my knowledge. You're an expert, Deputy Commissioner of Health, that I believe we still do not have, thank God, the mosquito present that is transmitting directly.
That's absolutely correct.
So let's clarify. So we're concerned about mosquitoes because mosquitoes are a problem for many reasons. But in terms of direct transmission from Zika, could you just clarify to everyone what we should feel about mosquitoes in our midst?
What we should feel about mosquitoes, well, I guess you may have all seen that we're actually going to be spraying tomorrow evening. So and that's not for Zika, but actually for West Nile. And there's information available on West Nile if you have any questions about West Nile itself and about the spraying. Zika, we do not have the mosquito here that transmits Zika, but what we do caution folks against, particularly if you're interested in bearing children or becoming pregnant, is to not travel to Zika-infected countries, and you can go online with the health department and find out where those countries are, of course. With respect to standing water also, we take care of that. So if you do see standing water or have concerns with standing water, call 311 and the health department will get there and take care of it.
And we're looking forward to making sure that we keep the water out of that playground, right? That's a big thing. Right here, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mrs. Geller, for this beautiful gymnasium. I have a question for you, Mayor, and this is a serious one. You mentioned, Councilman, the gentleman, 12 years old one. The governor has made progress with free college for the students, but people that finished that are having plenty of student loans, what is your initiatives and will you work with governor on it?
What's the last part? I couldn't hear you.
Could you take your part and maybe work with the governor in making the next drive, and that is to help those that have the student loans that aren't?
I have to be real with you on this. The city, I'd love to if we had resources. That's not something the city can do because of all the other obligations we have. Most people, when they look at a situation, what's going on in our society, it's not easy to determine what responsibility is city, what responsibility is state, what responsibility is federal. This is something that I honestly believe should be solved first and foremost at the federal level because it's a vast problem. The amount of student debt is huge, far beyond the reach, even for people who come from New York City, far beyond the reach of anything the city of New York could apply, could address itself. My obligation is to provide schools, to provide policing, sanitation, fire. I have a whole host of things I have to do for the people of the city. But when it comes to student loan issues, that's historically been federal and state, and that's where we have to find the bigger solutions. And I think there's more and more energy in this country to get to a bigger solution, and we certainly saw that in the presidential campaign. So I think we're going to get there eventually, but it's something we're going to have to keep fighting for. Thank you.
All right, first, I just want to announce that we have Assembly Member Brian Barnwell here tonight. So I know that both my colleagues who were co-sponsors this evening, brother. And both my colleagues in government, Assembly Member Aravella Simotas and State Senator Michael Gianaris, were co-sponsored this evening. I know they couldn't be here, but they're amazing public servants. I'm very grateful to serve with them. Right here.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Constantinides. I'm a local real estate broker, and we meet a lot of landlords who, on top of paying these high taxes, also have very bad tenants. And these tenants sometimes trick the government officials, especially building inspectors, and they make false accusations against the landlords. And these landlords very often don't get to tell their stories. And we spoke about landlords this evening and slumlords and people who evict tenants illegally, but we have to also address the problem of bad tenants. Yes. And false reports. There are landlords who are being harassed daily from bad tenants. They slip and fall. They claim all kinds of neglect from the landlord side, which is actually not true. And the landlords are stuck with paying the high mortgage, high taxes, oil, sewer, water. It's extremely expensive to maintain a home.
No, I appreciate it. It's a real problem. Look, I think the notion of more universal representation balances out the equation in many ways. This is my view. And I definitely have met a lot of smaller landlords in particular who have had this challenge, who are trying to do the right thing, who are abiding by all the laws. And then, yeah, of course, we know there are some people in New York City who try and scam other people, and that could include a tenant trying to scam a landlord. But the notion now of creating more universal representation for the tenants, I think it leads to the court system actually having a greater ability to actually look at the case and resolve it. And Steve, I'd like you to speak to this too. When there's representation, the cases, in my view, don't get delayed as much and the facts come out. And if the facts are, a lot of cases, I think you're right, someone tries to trick the landlord, trick the inspectors, but the landlord also has an opportunity to show that they were being scammed, and that comes out in a legal proceeding, then the tenant is found guilty in that situation. So speak to how representation can lead to a fair outcome on either side.
I think that what the mayor says is absolutely what I have seen in my experience during the time that I was running legal aid, that the court system has many, many cases that should never have been brought against tenants, and that makes it very hard for the court system to manage the cases that you're describing. I also think that when tenants have lawyers, the ability to do some of the things that you've described will not be present. So you'll have two benefits of universal representation. One, greater focus by the courts because the frivolous cases won't be in court. And number two, now someone will have a lawyer and things that are said or not said in court you're, as a lawyer, you're an officer of the court and you can only say what's true. So I think we'll see a much better playing field for all the parties in court, both the landlords and the tenants.
Okay. Right there in the back.
The luxuries of being 6'3" and tall. Hi, my name is Rafael Santana. I'm the director of the Astoria Cornerstone. DYCD took over the NYCHA centers, and the programs that the directory run for the communities are high-quality programs. But the centers doesn't match the programs. The centers are very outdated, and it's hard to actually reach the community in ways that directors really want to achieve because the centers are so outdated. And some of the centers are attached to compactor rooms, so we have rodent issues and pest issues, put it like that. But the centers are so outdated, and the communities are suffering for the centers being this outdated.
I hear you. I appreciate it. I like and appreciate your earlier point that the programs themselves are strong, and we're doing a lot to try and make sure that they're serving the young people effectively. And we particularly put a big investment in the summer initiatives, as you saw a few years ago, and keeping the programs going late into the evening to respond to the reality of what young people need. But the physical space is a huge challenge, as with everything in public housing, because a lot of the developments go back, easily a half century, if not a lot more. So I would say, as part of what we have to do, and this is what worries me, one of the things that worries me the most with the situation in Washington, right now the public housing in this city has about $18 billion in physical repairs we need to make. There's nowhere near that kind of money around. We have a plan over time to sort of chip away and chip away and chip away at. But that's dependent on the federal government not taking away from us. If they take away from us, it gets much, much tougher. So that's why that fight is going to be a very big one in the months ahead that we're going to be deeply engaged in Washington. But I think the answer, and you can add to this, Michael and Bill as well, Bill Chong, the head of DYCD, where we see a particularly troubling situation, we're trying sort of case by case to improve those centers. I was at Mariners Harbor in Staten Island when we did Staten Island Week. We invested in fixing that center. We're looking for opportunities to do it. But that's going to be selective when we see a particular need.
And just really quick, Mr. Mayor, the senior center, as part of that, is got beautiful ovens, but they're not hooked up. And they have only a TV in their senior center. And we've funded, I know there's a renovation coming, and I know that we're very excited about that because it really needs to give the programming and the space a revitalization. So I know how important that is for the senior center there at the Astoria houses.
Yeah. And the mayor's absolutely right. Every situation is different. It's all challenging. I'm going to have some folks talk to you right now about specifically where it's located. We'll have a follow-up about what we can do to try to mitigate that. But it is a challenge we have.
All right, he just got a chance to visit. Right. You have won a free visit from the general manager of the Housing Authority. Okay.
No, I told him he had to do it. I mean, we are in constant contact with many of the community centers, and we flag problems to the Housing Authority. A lot of times they try to prioritize things, and so this is helpful because they have limited resources, and we try to prioritize things. So we'll follow up with the Housing Authority.
So the general manager is going to come see you and also see if there's some ways to act on that compactor issue. That'd be good.
Right here. Go ahead. Here we go.
Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
We were welcoming you back to Astoria again. You're in the most diverse area in the city of New York and the most desirable area in the city of New York, more so than Williamsburg.
There you go.
With that being said, I was privileged to be at your announcement today for the arts, and it was a wonderful announcement, but I have great concerns. We have the most unenclosed cafes and restaurants outside of Manhattan. With that comes a huge, tremendous quality of life issue that taxes our police department. There's one individual spot right now that has 225 911 calls, 125 311 calls, shootings, stabbings, multiple robberies, and the police have been working tirelessly, and the community board has been working tirelessly with SLA and DCA.
Thank you.
I want to add one thing, and I'll be really quick.
Yeah.
This building has a C of O that doesn't permit the kind of establishment it is. 35-page letters have been sent to every...
Okay, I got it. Let's see what we're going to do.
Floor, I assume this is ACES?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So we've worked hand in hand through 4 March operations with the SLA, Department of Buildings, Fire Department, and the list goes on and on. We've aggressively tackled ACES. In fact, at one point in May, they were scheduled to have their license revoked. They went to a judge and got an emergency stay put into place. Therefore, they're now allowed to operate status quo. We continue to follow up with that club. We continue to visit that club and address it through summonses. Florence spoke about the no cabaret license. Every time we make a visit there, we issue a summons for
Inspector, let me ask you, it sounds like this club has been a bad actor.
Yes, this club has been a bad actor since day one.
So we have our Consumer Affairs Commissioner here, Lorelei Salas. So let's think a little creatively in front of everyone here. So if you have a bad actor, all these violations, police was happy to see them closed, they got out of it through a court process, you're a lawyer, you're the commissioner, what do you do now?
But I have a quick question, clarification. Are we talking about a sidewalk cafe? No, it's just, right.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Thank you for breaking it down, brother.
Yeah, this is what we talked about.
Yes.
Right. So what's the kind of thing, and I just want all the agencies to think together, and Buildings Department too, if they have evaded enforcement, but there's this kind of record of violations and all, how do we put our heads together to come back harder at them and undermine their ability to exist? If you have an easy answer, I want to hear it. Otherwise, I want you guys to put your heads together and come back with a plan.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about this together and definitely follow up on this location.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right there in the back in the checkered shirt.
Thank you so much for being here. I live around the corner. I'm one of the homeowners. I can't wait to get my $115 check. My son starts school here in the fall. It's a great facility. I'm excited about everything that's going on in Astoria. As a homeowner of a 2-family house, I've experienced some problems with the Department of Buildings in particular. When work is done, obviously things have to be permitted, and if a problem comes up, then you're kind of screwed. So I ended up with my gas turned off for over a year, not because work needed to be done, because the plumber was there, and not because I needed to get approval to have it done, but because we're waiting for inspections. And this turns out to be pretty common from the people I've spoken to, including plumbers, people who deal with the Department of Buildings on a regular basis, that in order to get an inspection or to get something approved, sometimes you're waiting for years. And so I cooked on a little hot plate next to my fully functional stove for over a year for my family with 2 kids, because we're waiting to get something approved. When the final inspection date came, the plumber did the inspection because nobody showed up. So because this seems to be systemic from the people I've spoken to, this is a reputation that the Department of Buildings has.
I got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And it drives me crazy. So this is all too painfully common story of some kind of ludicrous delay like this. Some of that is from the past, and we have made major changes. There's other areas where we're still trying to fix. I want to emphasize to anyone, if you have one of those situations, we want to know about it. If the council member, or if you can let the council member know, he can help to troubleshoot, to break through it. But I know that the commissioner wants to talk about the structural changes we're making, including in the number of personnel, because that was part of the problem in the past. Department of Buildings didn't have enough inspectors, and that's what largely caused those crazy timelines.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we realize the issues that you're hearing, and we've heard it ourselves way too many times. And the mayor, we've been fortunate that the mayor has given us more and more staff, and we focused on gas inspections in particular. And right at this moment, we have a 2-day turnaround from inspection. So when the plumber requests the inspection, our inspector will be out there in 2 days. So I can speak to you right now about the address that you have, and we can get the guy out there right now as long as your plumber is ready and everything's in order.
All right, so everyone, we have about 40 minutes left, and we have more hands than I can count. So we're going to make this a lightning round, which means we got to be like bang, bang. So let's get a question and get an answer. Sounds good? Are we good? Lightning round? All right, so here we go. Right here, blue shirt. Yeah, you.
Hello, blue shirt.
Hello, hi, my name is Evie.
From now on, you will have only one name.
First of all, thank you for all you're doing for education. You're really investing in community
Thank
schools, middle school, after school, pre-K.
You're not doing lightning round, but I like your comments.
Thank you. My question, though, has to do with affordable housing for families, because even with 421A and even with the change in the zoning to require developers to build a certain percentage of affordable housing, it doesn't mean that it's being built for families. There's a lot of studios and one-bedrooms, but very, very little three-bedrooms being built, and that is leading to families being displaced.
Because everyone thank you. Very important question. We're just going to start to pick up the pace so we can reach a lot of people. Quick answer.
It's important to us that affordable housing that we built and finance is available for families of different household sizes. And so through our lottery system, there is an ability there to, and you'll see what is available that are not just studios or one bedrooms. And I'd be more than happy to make sure that we are, that all of the resources are available so it's easier to identify what those
So maybe a number would be nice if you have one. Can you give some broad percentage or overall number of how many are 2-bedroom and larger?
I don't have that, but
okay, we'll get that to you. Thank you.
Right here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Costa. A quick question. We have a center and we have a lot of young youth. And we've been renting the gym in public school. And it used to be a very easy process and not costly at all.
To rent the gym.
Right.
Right.
Now, it's costly and the process very complicated. Is any way to waive that fees for nonprofit because we're not making no money?
Okay.
And we need to serve
Simple answer.
the young youth.
No, fair question, and I've heard it a lot of places in the city. Right now, there is a system in place. There's a lot of. I'm questioning whether it's the right system. Obviously, if we waive the fees, the city ends up taking on the cost of things like custodian, security, and all that, and then that gets passed on to the taxpayer. So it's a decision we have to make carefully. But I also appreciate a lot of nonprofits are having a tough time getting space they need, and community groups are getting a tough space. So we're talking about that right now, about possible changes we could make to that approach. Thank you.
Miss right here.
Hi, thank you for this question and answer forum. My question is that we have a big rodent problem. I live on 44th Street and 28th Avenue. 311 calls up the gazoo. I've called your office, Costa, and the other officials, and they say we're going to get back to you. 311 wrote an email to you. I have gotten no response. They're still running rampant.
Okay, so let me thank you very much. 44th and 28th. Okay, so have you seen any city action? I believe you. Have you seen it? Thank you for that. What? Have you seen any city action?
They said the Board of Health, she's one of our neighbors, and she said the Board of Health.
Okay, so the simple question, have we seen any city action? Yeah. Right. So
when,
there was
when was that? No. When was the department there?
Okay.
All right. So we need to get back there, and we just take.
So you're going to take a trip.
I'm gonna make sure. All right.
All right. You're going to go see
Go
her.
visiting.
You're going. This is one of the glories of coming to a town hall meeting.
Love it.
Personal responsibility. You're going to go see her yourself with your team and figure out what has to happen.
I should say I live in Astoria, so I.
He's going to walk over to see you.
There we go.
There you
I'll
go.
come back. There we go.
There you go.
All right.
Give her your card. Thank you.
Right there in the back. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everybody. Mayor Blasio, thank you for coming. My name is Markeisha Page. I'm an insulator by trade. There's been a lot of construction accidents going on, particularly in Long Island City, but everywhere.
Yes.
On June 20th, there was an accident with 3 workers who got injured because the roof collapsed because it was too overloaded. Okay, and a few days ago, I talked to a couple of the neighbors who were upset and concerned with things that were going on. About 6 days after that, there was another accident in Long Island City this time.
Okay.
6 workers ended up in the hospital. Okay? Now, in Astoria, the contractor, he ended up getting a suspended license. But the job in Long Island City, there's a partial stop work order on it, but there's still workers going to work every day. My question to you is, with employers who have repeat violations or extreme violations, what can we do to help them lose their business license?
Thank you, Markeisha. I appreciate it. So we're in the middle right now. This really is about, and the council members in the middle of this with us, we're in the middle of working on construction safety legislation literally as we speak. That should be done in the next few months. That's going to address a lot of these issues, including much more stringent approaches and consequences to the companies that are involved when there is a dangerous situation. So I don't take it lightly at all. I appreciate what you're saying, and it makes me very upset that people have lost their lives or been injured who didn't have to be, and that there aren't always enough consequences for those behind it. So that is literally what we're working on, and it's going to be resolved in the course of the next few months with the council, new laws that are more stringent.
All right, right there in the back.
Wait, you need a microphone.
Wait for your...
Good evening. I have a question about transit system. I ride a bus on Ditmars Avenue, Ditmars Boulevard, Q69. Sometimes I wait half an hour, sometimes 45 minutes, and many times 1 hour. And all of a sudden, the 3 buses together. I'd like to know what's the reason for that.
He's asked about, okay, I'm going to answer it. So first of all, he's asked about one of the great mysteries of our life in New York City. Okay, let's take a poll of the room. Sir, I got to keep moving. Poll of the room. Who runs the buses? Does the state run the buses or does the city run the buses? If you think it's the state, raise your hand. If you think it's the city, raise your hand. Okay, the group has said the state is correct. The state of New York runs the MTA. The governor runs the MTA. We are pushing very hard, and I know the council members joining me in this, to get a bigger plan to fix the MTA, especially the subways, which have been going through a crisis lately. So I don't know how they possibly managed to have 3 buses show up at once with all that in between. I know it's not, I don't run it. I would run it differently, I assure you. I don't run it, but we are pushing for major, major changes at the MTA. And we will also have Nicole, who works for Polly Trottenberg, who's a board member of the MTA, follow up with you to see what we can do to improve that situation. Thank you, sir. We got to keep moving.
All right, here we go, right here. We're doing our best. We're going to go quick.
Yes, good evening, and thank you so much for being here with us, Mayor.
You're welcome.
And we just thank so much for Costa and all the hard work. I'm Claudia Koga from the Astoria Resident Association.
Thank you. Okay, lightning round. Lightning round.
But what I wanted to ask is, you heard from all of the residents that spoke on behalf of what's going on in Astoria houses. One of the things that I want to bring to the floor is that the Goodwill Industries is closing down their after-school programs. All the social programs will end next June. And in the meantime, we just heard that we have no space in Astoria houses for our youth, for community space. So,
And does Goodwill do youth-oriented? I don't know.
Yes, they do.
They do youth-oriented, okay. So are we going to, let me get you a simple question because we got to keep moving, everyone. Is there going to be a replacement organization?
Yes, the Goodwill.
Walk over here. Walk over here.
Okay, Goodwill decided to get out of the business of running the Beacon Community Centers, but we're in the process of selecting new providers, and they'll get new contracts, and the announcements will be made in about a week or two.
So they're going to take care of. Okay.
Those were results, fast results.
All right, right there. Right there in the middle. There you go. Sorry. I have to be more succinct.
Thank you. Juan Restrepo, longtime Astoria resident. Mr. Mayor, with City Bike expanding into Astoria, and I want to thank you personally for helping bring it here. Are there any plans to further expand it into the eastern parts of Queens so that people can ride instead of from Queens to Manhattan, from Queens to the other wonderful parts of Queens? And does the city have any plans to help expand that? Is there a timeline for that
Sorry,
process?
you said City Bike.
City Bike.
Yes. Yeah,
Bikes.
City Bike expansion is continuing. We are talking to City Bike, and now there's some interesting other alternatives coming up about how to deepen the expansion. But the goal of the City of New York is absolutely to see City Bike expand, but we're not going to put public money into it. We want to do it with the current model. But yes, it will expand.
All right here in the black shirt.
Good evening. What is the City of New York doing to address the presence of lead in the school water system in Jackson Heights and other places in Queens?
Yes, thank you very, very much. So a quick preface that I was a public school parent. Both my kids went all the way through public schools, and my kids went to a very old the building was very old. So this is very personal for me. I understand why when parents hear about lead in water, they get very concerned. Here is the fact. I've talked to our health commissioner, Dr. Mary Bassett, many times about this. We have no evidence of any child in New York City public schools having gotten a negative medical impact from any lead in water. What has happened is sometimes there are amounts of lead in water that are too high for us to accept for limited periods of time. When we find that, we shut off that apparatus. We replace it if we have to. We get to whatever the root cause of it is. But there's not a reason to be alarmed about a child's health because we've seen no negative outcomes. But I want you to rest assured we're being very transparent. There's a state law that requires it on top of our own transparency. We put up online what's going on. And if we have to take out an entire fixture or anything, we're happy to do that.
Hey, right here.
Praise the Lord.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Pastor Doris Johnson, and I want you to take care of this when I put you back in office, please.
Okay, I like your attitude.
Can you please?
I like the way you think already.
Can you please do something with the squatter law, please?
The squatter law?
Squatter's law, yes.
What does that mean?
When people move into your house and try to burn your house down and they illegal there and try to take control and they put fear in you.
Okay,
I really feel that single-family homes should not be put with the buildings, the people that have hundreds of buildings with these squatter laws. When you got a one-family house and you only get $1,600 a month.
Commissioner Banks is going to speak to that. Go ahead.
Okay.
It's a state law, and would be happy to take a look and see if there's anything we can do, but it is a state law that pertains to squatters.
If someone has a problem with someone in their own building who's causing them a menace, what should they do?
I'm going to make the best suggestion I can, which is to call 311, and we can, those complaints sometimes come to our agency, sometimes come to HPD. We work very closely together. Okay. But we're going to send someone to talk to you right now about your exact situation.
So Commissioner Banks is going to talk to you directly about the situation you know about. Thank you.
Right,
Gentleman's right behind you in the shirt.
Okay. Here we go.
Right here. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. We are getting hammered with the overdevelopment in Long Island City and Astoria. And with 2 days left, 2 days remaining in Queens Week, we'd invite you to walk down our streets. If you walk down 35th Avenue, you will find that we have double-parked garbage trucks up and down. It's a default depot for the sanitation department that does not even pick up our garbage. We pay taxes, we're citizens, and we're voters. And we don't get free access to municipal services. We don't have equity with those services. We are Astoria. We are We Astoria, Ravenswood, Woodside, these places are given disparate treatment
Well, we are here
in the
to,
city.
Thank you for the question. We're here to fix that disparate treatment. There's no question there is a long history of disparate treatment. The goal is to fix it, and that starts with the sanitation department and the location of that garage. So can we
Right,
speak
so I
to that
believe you're
situation?
talking about the Queens One garage, which is across the street from Ravenswood houses. It was built in the 30s. It's completely inappropriate for where it's located. It's completely inappropriate for the equipment. We're actively looking for a new site, and we are also hopeful to have a temporary site by this fall to at least alleviate the trucks that are on
Okay,
the
let's
street.
just clarify that. So when you find the temporary site, hopefully this fall, what will happen around Ravenswood? What will
So it'll
come out?
still be an active garage, but the trucks that are on the street, that are the double parking trucks, should be relieved. Those will all go to the temporary site.
Okay, that's this fall.
Sir, right here.
So I don't live here in Astoria, but I do live in Queens. I'm in Jamaica. One of the issues that we have as homeowners is that the city trees are breaking up the sidewalks. So one of the issues, the homeowners have to fix the sidewalks because of that, and the trees are destroying the sewer lines. They have to
Right.
wind up getting the sewer lines cleaned out. Who's responsible for that? Is the city?
We put more money into the budget this
Thank
time
you.
I'm not giving you, I gotta give you a little bit of a two-part answer. We put more money into the budget working with the city council to deal with the situations that we felt were because of the tree and were real safety dangers, so that the city could put more resources toward those. Now, I'm a homeowner in Brooklyn. We all understand, whether we like it or not, the sidewalks are a responsibility. But when the city's involvement, because of the tree being there, really is the cause, we're trying to put more money into being able to fix that for the homeowner. We don't have enough yet, I'm not going to lie to you. But if you have a specific situation, we want to know about it. I think, is that Parks? Yes, Parks
It
Department,
is.
you will follow up.
It is.
So
We're
you'll
going to follow up with you so I can get
Thank
your
you very
address.
much.
Okay. Miss right here. Wait for the microphone. Oh, wait, sorry. We had called on you and you'd gone to somebody else. We're going to come there and then we're going to come there.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you need a microphone.
We're trying to do our best.
In May of 2016, you offered the Board of Elections $20 million for increases in training in regard to the inspectors. They turned it down immediately. I am a coordinator at PS 234 in Queens for 17 years and have never had an increase, and neither have my 44 inspectors. The board voted themselves a 10% increase 3 years ago. We haven't never received an increase, myself for 17 years. If it keeps on going the way it is, next year, our average hourly rate will be under the minimum wage.
Yep.
Can you please help us?
I appreciate that question very much, because the fact is, we want to pay the folks who work at the polls better. We want to train them more. We want to bring in more technology and teach them how to use it. And the Board of Elections has been standing in the way. You're exactly right. We offered them $20 million if they, no, I'm saying to everyone's benefit, in exchange for some reforms, they've turned it down. So we're going to put more pressure on them to accept that package so we can actually put more pay in the hands of the folks who do the work. So we're going to stay on that.
Hi there. Thank you so much. We also need help at 3135 Crescent. I need help individually, but there are really serious issues in the building. So I was forced from my apartment in February because of toxic mold. The owners knew about it for almost a year. They did nothing until...
I'm sorry, what kind of building is it, just so I understand?
3135 Crescent, rent stabilized.
It's rent stabilized?
Rent stabilized.
Okay, and you're saying you have toxic mold?
Yes, they knew about the mold for almost a year. They did nothing
Vito.
until HPD got involved.
Okay.
But just to tell you, I've seen strange things happen, like there was a DOB inspector came in and saw that there was moisture intrusion coming up through the cement slab. I'm
Okay.
a first floor apartment. It was dismissed.
Okay, wait, let's keep it simple here because it's
Yeah.
lightning round. So Deputy Commissioner Vito Mostacciolo is the final word in dealing with landlords. So he's going to come see you and see for himself, okay? You're going to go see. Okay. I'm going to keep it broad because we got a lot of people to get to. He's coming over. This is the guy who's the expert on dealing with. Don't be upset. We're sending a deputy commissioner to you to help address your problem. So please don't act frustrated when we're trying to help you, okay?
right, right here. I'll even give you my. Okay.
Thank you. My name's Mohammed Sarkar. I'm a student at a humble high school by the name Stuyvesant High School, which is 10 minutes from City Hall. And I'm a frequent patron of
Not Brooklyn Tech, but it's okay.
Oh, all right, we're going to go there. And I just want to talk about everyone's favorite agency, the MTA, which I knew even before the town hall was under the state control of Governor Cuomo.
Yes.
And I was just wondering, is there a way for you to make an agreement with the state government to initiate more reforms? Because while I appreciate your initiative to clean up tracks, I do think there needs to be more done, especially like I've done my research and like it's taken 10 years for you to update the signaling technology on the 7
Now again, it's not us, it's the state, but this, the MTA, from my point of view, is way behind on doing the basics that matter the most, like the signals, electricity, et cetera. I've said very clearly, I want to see a plan very soon from them to shift their resources. They have many billions of dollars. They need to shift them on to these essential things. And that's what the city is going to push them to do. And if they don't do it, we will author our own plan and put it out and create public pressure for it. So the whole idea is to get the MTA to reorient to getting the basic service right.
Here, right here.
Hi. My question is for Councilmember Constantinides. I would like to know why you still have not yet signed up to co-sponsor the Right to Know Act. It is only one vote away from a veto-proof majority in order to bring it to the city floor, and I would like you to commit to co-sponsoring the act. And similarly, Mayor Deblasio, I would like to know why you still have not yet read the Lippman report in order to make closing Rikers a focus and a priority. I want to emphasize to you that your 10-year plan is too long.
I want to emphasize to you that Judge Lippman said it would take 10 years. So I appreciate your righteousness. But I really find it to be not fair if people say, you haven't read a report, therefore you're wrong, when the report itself says it will take 10 years. That's not the point. I have a battery of people look at this stuff and brief me on a host of issues, and you guys respectfully love to hinge on this thing about whether you read a report. That's not the point. The report says, go call Judge Lippman. It says it's going to take 10 years. We're being honest about what it's really going to take. A plan is, I'm saying to you, I've had the conversation with Judge Lippman. So you want an outcome that the expert on this said isn't possible. I'd love it to be true. I really would. I have no desire for it to be longer open than it is.
Right.
But 10 years is reality.
All right, go ahead, right there. Yeah. I appreciate, we've had this conversation. We're happy to continue to talk with you guys.
So there's affordable housing for seniors and the poor. What's being done for young professionals like myself, especially, just young professionals?
Fair. The affordable housing plan, we put it out 3 years ago, and it is very clear about the need to have affordable housing for working class people and middle class people too. We want a mix of incomes in every community. The problem is just a volume problem. You know, I said we're creating enough, building and preserving enough apartments for 500,000 people. That's like the size of the population of Miami. But it's not enough, and it's going to take us over several years to get there. So right now, there's a thing called Housing Connect. You can apply to all of the different things that become available within your income range, and you should. But the fact is, no, I'm saying it's a pretty wide range. That's what we know we can reach. It does apply to a lot of folks who are starting out in their careers. It doesn't apply to everyone, but it does apply to a pretty broad range of people.
All right, right here.
Finally, thank you very much. I have to stand. Can I just sit and do it?
Go ahead.
My name is Ali. I'm a food vendor. And I've been food vendor for almost 8 years.
So what's your question? Because we got to go quick for everyone to get a chance.
I just want to know, like, how long do you have to, like, have the license in order to get a permit?
I don't know that personally, but as I said, we're making right now a major legislative push in the council to come up with a new law to create more sense in how we approach vending. But we can have our folks from Consumer Affairs, or Health, Health follow up. You just follow up.
Sure, we'll make
directly.
sure.
Thank you.
Hey, miss right here.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Buenas tardes. Buenas noches. Thank you, Paula.
Gracias, señor Deblasio, por permitirme esta oportunidad de dirigirme a usted.
And it's lightning round, so she can go through it all and just give us the quick summation. Go.
Como madre, conociendo su entrañable amor por sus hijos. Quisiera pedir su intervención para corregir, entre otros, el siguiente error. Actualmente,
Un momentito, señora.
Okay, well, we just need a quick summary,
Dígame lo que quiere preguntar. La pregunta.
traduzca todo.
Sí. Dígame.
Just translate what I'm ready.
Okay.
No, yo lo quiero leer, pero tradúzcalo.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I got the summary. The Deputy Chancellor is going to see her personally about this, okay, because individual matters. The Deputy Chancellor right here will come over to see you. She's going to come see you.
Poderlo leer.
Go ahead, Dorita, why don't you go do that now?
Sobre su pregunta.
Okay.
Deputy Chancellor Gibson will talk to you directly.
Okay, right here? Oh, wait.
Go ahead, keep going.
Keep going? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Councilman, there's been a spike in hate between neighbors. When does the Department of Building realize that after 99 complaints or 100 complaints that the feud between the neighbors are because of hate?
Well, I want to be careful on that. I appreciate the point, but I want to be careful on that. It's not Department of Building's place to determine if there is a hate crime. That's a thing we call the NYPD. So if there's a legitimate concern that a neighbor is putting out to the Department of Buildings, that's looked at for the factual nature. If you or anyone else think it's motivated by hate and it's some form of intimidation and all, we want the NYPD to follow up. So do you have a situation you think might rise to that? Great. Where do you live?
I live in Woodside, but the situation isn't under the 114th precinct on 37th Street.
Where?
114.
114
Astoria.
Okay, Inspector will follow up right after this.
Thank you very much.
Miss, right here?
I wanted to talk about the street parking. You can't find a parking spot. I have to go around and around. They keep overbuilding Astoria. Are they gonna build parking lots so you can park your car instead of taking mass transit?
Here's the bottom line. I want to be, again, straightforward. There is parking that is put in most development, but we're never going to be able to keep up with the number of people we have if everyone keeps driving the way they're used to. The world is changing very rapidly. That's just the truth. And so I'm saying to everyone, look, I'm very clear for my own life that when I go back to civilian life, I'm not going to get a car anymore. It doesn't make sense in this city. We're trying to increase the amount of mass transit. We're trying to make a lot of things work better, give you more options so you don't need a car as much. But the fact is, no, we are not building so much parking that will constantly encourage everyone to keep buying a car and having a car, because it just doesn't work in this environment anymore.
Right here?
Thank you. I have a question. Thank you for addressing the question about lead in the public schools. My question has to do with possible lead in waters in our playgrounds and our parks.
Okay.
The kids play in their playgrounds and sprinklers, they drink the water, and I've looked into getting tests for playgrounds in Astoria and Western Queens.
Yep.
And there's no standard operating procedure for that in the
Okay,
way
so-
there is for residents.
No, it's a very good question. So between parks and health, this is both of you now. So if you have both the sprinklers, because the water gets in the mouth, obviously, and the water coolers, what do you do?
Right. I don't know if there is. I think you're right. No formalized system, but we will. If you feel that there's some risk, some danger, we're here to protect you. So we'll do what we can to get out there and right. So again, if you have a concern, we'll take care of it. We'll connect right here tonight.
You're going to go out and just directly look at this. I do think you guys should think about a standard going forward, because it's a good question. It's something we can apply when there's other concerns raised. Thank you.
Okay. Right there? In the suit, yeah, right there. Keep your hand up. They're coming.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Gianaris. My question is pretty simple. I want to thank you for your commitment to environmental justice, both by getting rid of 4 and 6 oils.
Come on, give me the question, though.
Okay. I would like to know what it would take to make green spaces actually green by creating a recycling program in New York City parks.
That's a good question. Damn good question.
I like it.
All right. And I don't know the answer to it, but it's a damn good question. It's a noble goal.
It's a very good question.
How far are we along with that?
We do have a number of parks that we do recycle in. I'd like the park manager to speak to see what area you're speaking about, because if we can expand into a new spot, we'd like to. We have a a very strong cooperative arrangement with Department of Sanitation, so I want to thank you. We collect it, and then they take it away for us, so it's a good
Astoria
program.
Park? Astoria Park?
We can work on Astoria.
Astoria Park, right?
We will work on this. We will.
All right, right here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Councilman. Question for you. What can you do for the Muslim students in the public schools for the Friday prayers, which is only 1 day a week for like 15, 20 minutes, like in a private section?
Another good question that I don't know the answer to, but let me see if the Deputy Chancellor has a thought on this. So you're saying there's a particular time of the week, Friday, obviously, and so a particular time of day for prayers. Has there been a discussion about making accommodation for Muslim students for that?
We do that in schools. Most of our principals do that. There's a quiet place for them to go, and students know that. If you tell me a particular school, I'll follow up with the principal.
Okay, she'll follow up with
Okay,
you
I will.
immediately. Thank you.
Right here, in the blue.
Andrew Repshandani, VP of Programs for Zone 126. Thank you for what you've done in terms of renewal community schools, but what are you guys doing to look at sustainability past your next 4 years that you're going to be in office?
You mean in terms of those schools?
Continuing on with their funding.
Yes. Okay, excellent question. So, the goal is with a renewal school, which is a school that's had trouble that we think we can bring back, to graduate it, if you will, out of that status and keep it out of that status. Now, some cases a school may need some prolonged funding if we think it's basically there, but it needs an extra boost to keep there. So we're totally willing to continue that for a period of time. I can't tell you exactly how many years, but we're willing to continue that. So it's not like a really narrow rule that says the minute you're no longer renewal school, we're cutting you off. Some don't need the help anymore. Others, we're willing to give them prolonged help.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for coming tonight. It's an honor to bring you to Queens.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for you, and this is a policy visioning question and may affect your legacy in a good way or a bad way.
Okay, question, please.
The question is, what would you do with Rikers Island land use after the penitentiaries closed?
Excellent.
What was your vision?
So look, different competing ideas have been put forward. There's a swath of ideas around job creation, manufacturing, private sector uses. There's another set of ideas about moving other public facilities, garages, things like that, that could be moved out of areas where we might be able to create housing in their place. Those are the two. In theory, those two could coexist. But my prediction is it's going to be one or the other. Some people have talked about a runway for LaGuardia. That's conceivable. I don't see that as much right now. But I'm betting the one that the city's probably most interested in overall is moving other facilities, storage, parking lots, et cetera, that the city is using elsewhere to that island, opening up that space for creation of housing.
All right, right here.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Now, my question is specific to the opening statement that you brought up regarding the making Astoria and Queens in general safer.
Yes.
So there is a specific portion of street on 20th Avenue between Hazen and Steinway. There is very poor lighting. There are no bumps. There is one traffic light, and it is becoming
Okay,
racing
we're doing quick answers now. So Nicole, what do you got?
So street lighting, signals, I'm happy to meet with you and talk about how we can improve.
Say again,
20th Avenue and Steinway?
Between Hazen and Steinway Street. So right by Raimondo Playground, right by Senior Center, right on 20th Avenue.
Okay, but you don't have an immediate answer, so you're going to meet with them.
We're going to be.
Okay, she's going to follow up with you. We take it. We're going to follow up with that for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for coming. I'm a big fan. My question is, I know the city's done a lot of good work to deal with the racial disparities and arrests, but it was just recently revealed that there's still 60,000 marijuana arrests, 86% of which are people of color. First, have you come around to supporting legalization of marijuana? And if not, what are you going to do to end the racial disparity in those arrests?
Thank you for the question. No, I'm not yet there on legalization. I'm very much aware of what's happening in other states, and I'm looking, after we get through this year, to really do a careful study of what's happened, particularly in Colorado and Washington State, to see what it tells us about what makes sense for our future. I think our situation is arguably more complex than any place else, but we're going to have much more of a body of evidence soon. The second point is, look, we've ended arrests for low-level marijuana possession. That's been very successful and a very important move for the city. And as I said, with other types of situations, we're encouraging warnings, summonses, whenever possible. Sometimes there's arrests, but that often is when there's other factors at play than just the presence of marijuana. But on the question of disparity, I don't want to see any disparity in policing. We're training police in terms of de-escalation. We're training in terms of implicit bias. But the final point I'd make is we do get led by community complaints. And that's what tends to initiate a lot of the police activity. And we do get a lot of community complaints, including in communities of color, asking for police enforcement on marijuana, and we still do that.
All right, sir, right here. All right, then we're going to swing back. All right, so we have 5 minutes. Lightning round. Really, like super lightning round.
Let's see how fast you can go.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. While I voted for you, thus far I have not been happy with your performance.
Okay, question for me.
I just want to say is that this whole evening, I've been very impressed and very appreciative.
I thank you. I'm still in the game. Okay, what's your question?
That
was it? Thank you.
No, I appreciate.
Thank you.
Town hall meeting.
I appreciate that.
All right. Miss, right there.
City.
Everyone gets a microphone.
The problem, in a nutshell, most people will agree with me. Just do the math. I made more money in 1985 when I got out of high school than I do now.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the cost of rent has gone up, I don't even know how much.
Yep.
10 times, 100 times more. When is this going to stop? When a landlord's going to be able to say, you know what, draw the line. 2-bedroom cannot be more than whatever for a private house or apartment building. 1-bedroom cannot be more than 1,000 or 1,500, whatever. If this continues, the homeless situation within the next 5 or 10 years is going to be so bad, it's going to be a nightmare of a city.
Okay, I hear your point loud and clear. Let me speak to it real quick.
Very scary.
No, it is scary. And look, when I ran, I talked about the fact that we had more and more people couldn't make ends meet. And this is the whole problem that's happening in New York City, but it's happening around the country, of stagnant incomes and a middle class that's stuck or in decline. Here, what we've tried to do, very simple, increase wages, increase benefits, higher minimum wage, things like paid sick leave. We've tried to reduce costs. Parents now don't have to pay for pre-K, they don't have to pay for after school for middle school kids. We've tried to reduce the cost of housing, affordable housing plans, stop evictions with a free lawyer. It's not enough. It all helps. The rent freeze helped for the 2 million plus people in rent-stabilized housing. It doesn't change the fundamentals as much as we want, because a lot of that would have to happen from Washington. But we think if we do enough of this, it keeps the city at least more affordable for more New Yorkers, so we can work on the bigger solutions. Thank you.
Go ahead, right there. Wait for the mic.
I think you'll get no more than 2 more after this.
All right.
So, her plus.
Hello. I wanted to know what are some ways that we can do more funding for youth programs in Astoria, especially this school here in PS 70, which is nonprofit, sports and arts.
Okay, good question. So, this is a straight-up budget question. We decided early on in my administration, working with the city council, to give every middle school, all the kids, I should say, in middle school, free after-school programs. So every middle school child in New York City has access to a free after-school program, whether it's in their own school or nearby. Still a lot of young people are not taking advantage of it. I hope we can do better with that. We're trying, after that, to look for ways to increase the amount of funding that goes towards youth. The council's been very focused on summer youth employment. That has more than doubled in the last 3 years. It's now 70,000 summer youth jobs this summer. So those are the kinds of investments we make. We are not, at this point, able to do more for every school in terms of the kinds of programs we can bring in, but we're trying to do some big pieces that add up to more opportunities for youth.
Right here.
Okay, and this and one more.
All right.
I'll be super fast. So 31st Street, 35th Avenue, a lot of crashes there. There's a school about 2 blocks away. Who can I speak with about stopping
Say it again.
that?
31st,
right?
Let me say it one more
31st
time.
Street under the train station and 35th Avenue.
Right by 166, 2 blocks down.
Okay, so 31st, say it one more time.
31st Street and 35th Avenue, a lot of car crashes, about 2 blocks away from the school. So how can I?
Okay, do you have something at that location or are you going to follow up?
I will follow up, and we have a good program that we do around schools to slow speeding.
She will follow up. This is the last one.
All right, sir.
Thank you for coming tonight. I'll keep this quick. You supported pre-tax transit benefits that help middle-class New Yorkers save $100 on their Metro cards. Will you support fair fares that will help lower-income New Yorkers save money on Metro cards?
I appreciate the question. I've gotten the question many, many times. I've said I believe fundamentally, given what the city of New York has to cover, everything, affordable housing and police and parks and everything else, that something that is an MTA expense should be covered by the state. I don't think they're putting in the resources they could, and I'm going to fight for what I think is a more fair share for New York City on the fair fare, but I do not believe we can cover it now out of the city budget. It's a good idea, but I want the state to cover it. All right, everyone, thank you very, very much.